Good evening. The Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Board of Trustees is now convened in a board work session on Wednesday, June 18th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the boardroom of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Mark Henry Administration Building for the purpose of reviewing that portion of the Monday, June 23rd, 2025 regular board meeting agenda designated as action items and to hear designated reports and recognitions posted in the meeting notice as required by Texas law. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our online viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. We're here to set goals, listen to reports, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a business meeting of the Board of Trustees that is held in public. This is not a meeting of the public, and audience members may not participate in the meeting outside of the designated agenda item for citizen participation or agenda comment. The meeting will be conducted in an orderly and efficient manner in accordance with the law and local policy. To achieve this goal, participants, as well as those in the audience, are expected to abide by the rules outlined in the board policies. Disruption of the meeting by any person, including the audience, is inappropriate and will be addressed by the board president or the board's counsel as the meeting parliamentarian. Continued or repeated disruption of any board meeting by words or actions is unacceptable. It is a criminal offense for participants or audience members with an intent to prevent or disrupt a school board meeting to substantially obstruct or interfere with the meeting. This can be by physical action or verbal utterance. Individuals who are boisterous, disruptive, or fail to abide by the rules of the meeting may be asked to leave the gallery and observe the meeting in the overflow area. Failure to leave the gallery when requested to do so may result in being removed from the premises and possibly subject to arrest. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. During this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 through 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on the district website. They will also be available on the district website following tonight's meeting. For the video to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. We also want to acknowledge that we don't have any elected officials with us tonight, but we do have a Boy Scout, Joel Barrett, from Troop Number 939, and Girl Scout, Skylar Barrett, from Troop 110032, and they're here earning a badge tonight. We welcome you, and we hope you learn a lot. Okay, the invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, vision and mission statement, remarks and announcement, board comments, citizen participation, and portions of recognitions, and item 6B, public hearing, will be presented at the regular board meeting on Monday, June 23rd, 2025. At each open meeting of the board, patrons who have registered in accordance with the procedures established by BED regulation may address the board during the designated agenda comments period prior to the board's consideration or action on the item. Unless the agenda is otherwise rearranged by the board president during the meeting, agenda comments will generally be taken prior to each agenda item. However, because of the Texas Open Meetings Act, it does not require a governmental body to hear a complaint or charge against a public officer or employee in an open meeting. Agenda comments that address complaints or concerns against individuals will be heard in closed session and may be moved or taken out of order. Also, in accordance with the procedures established by BED regulation, patrons may address the board during citizen participation on any matters of interest or concern that are not posted agenda items. The Texas Open Meetings Act does not require a governmental body to hear a complaint or charge against a public officer or employee in an open meeting. Therefore, citizen participation comments that address complaints or concerns against individuals will be heard in closed session and as a result may be moved or taken out of order. Meeting participants are also advised that speaking during the meeting does not automatically create immunity and that statements made that violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy are not protected. If any speaker is unsure of the legal effect of his or her remarks, the speaker should seek legal guidance in advance. Lastly, please note that while board members may not respond to public participation comments. This does not indicate agreement with the comments or that the comments are necessarily true. For detailed information and instructions on registering to speak under agenda comments and citizen participation, please go to the district website at cfisd.net. Patrons who have registered to speak this evening may see the order of names listed on the screen. Before your name is called, please move forward and sit in one of the reserved seats in the front row. When you approach the podiums, you will see a monitor inside each podium. When it is your time to begin speaking, a digital presentation timer will be displayed at the top of the monitor. You will see a 30-second and 15-second warning light to wrap up your comments. The timer will be set in accordance with the number of speakers registered this evening. We will begin with item 2C of the recognitions portion of the agenda. And item 2C, the board will recognize CFISD athletes who placed in the 2025 UIL State Track and Field Championship. Our athletic director, Ms. Virginia Flores, will present. Thank you.
All right, I always have to move this. Dr. Blasingame, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Killian, it is my pleasure to be here tonight representing our athletic department to present to you athletes who are gold, silver, and bronze medalists in the UIL competition for boys and girls state track and field championships held at the University of Texas in Austin on May 2nd and 3rd of this past year. I really appreciate the time that you guys are affording us to publicly recognize these very deserving young people. Athletes, as I call out your name, please come forward to receive your certificate and stay until all names have been announced. So you get to be up here for a while. It's going to be fun, all right? As each of our athletes is walking up to be recognized, I would ask that their principals, if here, and any administrative teams to please stand while being recognized, along with their coaches, Coach Julian Keggins, Rory Malone, Tom Kennedy, and Chris Wilson, and any of their assistants, as well as any of our athletes' family members that are with us to please stand as their athlete is coming forward. I didn't do that last time, so I'm going to make sure I hand these out to you guys so we can give them. All right, first are our bronze medalists. From Cypress Ranch, Miss Celeste Robinson, who is a senior. She was a medalist in 2 events at the State Track and Field Championships, in the 100 meters, running 11.26, and the 200 meters, running a 23. Celeste will be attending the University of Georgia on a track scholarship. And side note, this is not Celeste's first rodeo to be recognized, also to be at the state track meet. And we also have the pleasure of having her dad be one of our coaches here in the district over at Campbell Middle School. And I want to make sure, is Priscilla here? Yes, okay, good, all right. All right, and then our silver medalist from Cypress Ranch, we have Priscilla Adugyamfi. She is a senior. She ran at 53.28 in the 400 meters, and she will be attending Boise State on a track scholarship. Our second silver medalist who is here tonight is from Jersey Village, our senior Landon Freeman, who placed second in the high jump with a jump of 7 feet. Landon will be attending Baylor University on a track scholarship. And our state champions. From Bridgeland, a junior, Rowan Sackey, who got our first state medal, our first championship medal at the state track meet in the 3200, running a 10:05.9. She's a junior, and she has already committed to the University of Colorado. And then we had a team, our boys 4x100 meter relay team from Cypress Springs. They ran a 40.06, and that is made up of Mr. Yogi Martin, who is a sophomore, Cam Robertson, who is a sophomore, and Sam Onwuchekwa, who is a freshman. Paris Melvin is actually at the Nike Nationals today, so he's not here, and he's a junior. And so I find it quite promising that these young men are not seniors yet, so we're hoping to see them again next year. We're really excited. These young people have achieved state accolades at the highest level, not only with their work ethic, their unwavering focus on pursuing excellence, their leadership, but also by taking care of business in the classroom as well. Their support, I know that they couldn't do this without the support and guidance of their coaches and their family members. And so as we conclude our portion of this meeting, I just want to thank the board again and Dr. Killing's administrative team for their support of our athletic programs. Celebrations like this would not be possible without your collective efforts. We really appreciate it. So awesome, like these are our podium finishers. It's pretty stinking cool. All right.
Awesome, truly incredible when you think of the size of the state and the stakes so high. Congratulations to these amazing athletes and student athletes at that. Okay, item 5A, we will hear reports from the portion of the agenda that is entitled Reports. The administration will provide a written report on the cooperative purchasing fees paid by the district for the 23-24 fiscal year. Is this questions only? Okay, board members, do we have any questions for item 5A? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 5B. And this is a report that will be provided on formative assessment data with the presenter, Dr. Tanya Goree.
Good evening. This evening, we are sharing data related to strategic plan goals 5 and 6. Goal 5, let me get my clicker together. Goal 5 focuses on students in grades 1, 2, and 3 who did not meet the prior end-of-year RIT score. The goal is 90% of students are expected to meet the 50% AMERA Reading Mastery or ARM score by 2029. Here are the data for grade 1. The first column shows the students in each group. The second column shows the number of students who did not meet the end-of-year RIT score. And among these students, reading across from left to right, 3% have an AMERA Reading Mastery score of 1.0 or below. That's a first grader, 0 months of school. 3% at 1.1, 4% at 1.2, 5% at 1.3, 5% at 1.4, 5% at 1.5, 6% at 1.7. And then you get to the green columns. The green columns highlight the number of students at or above grade level standards. That's 9% at 1.8, 11% at 1.9, and 43% at 1.2. Here you see the data for second grade presented in the same format, and I'll give you a moment to read across the highlighted bar. This is third grade data. The data here represents third grade students formatted in the exact same way. Goal 6 focuses on students in grades 4 and 5 who scored below approaches on STAR ELAR. The goal is 90% of these students are expected to meet the 50% ARM score by 2029. The data for 4th and 5th grade are formatted in the same way as the previous slides. And this slide shows 5th grade. As you know, goals 4 and 5 are part of the district's 5-year strategic plan. The data shared in this summary shows the progress after year 1. So we have completed year 1 of the 5-year plan. This graphic summarizes data for first and second grade students who did not meet the end of year RIT score in 2024 and were below grade level standard at the beginning of the school year. So it's just that group of students. So there's a total of 2,329 students combined in grades 1 and 2 who received an ARM score for all 4 marking periods. So that's the group that we're talking about in this summary. 27% of these students are below the expected learning rate as compared to their peers. The number is 623 out of that 2,329. 73% of these students showed measurable growth based on the ARM scores. Of those who made growth, 27%, 556 students, have already met the 5-year ARM score goal. This graphic provides a summary of a mirror data for students in grades 3, 4, and 5 who did not meet the end-of-year RIT or STAR score in 2024 and were below levels at the beginning of 2024-2025. It's just that group of students. The total for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade is 3,293 students in grades 3 through 5 who had an ARM score for all 4 marking periods. 68% of these students are still below expected learning rate compared to their peers. However, let me go back. If you see the data outside the blue bar, the blue section there, 31% of these students were able to successfully pass the STAR reading score test this year at approaches or higher, even though they're reading below the mark their peers, the expected rate of their peers. 32%, 1,053 students, showed measurable growth based on their ARM score. If you look at the information below that, 697 of those students, 67%, were able to pass STAR at approaches or higher. Taking it a step further, 19%, 200 students in that group have already met the 5-year learning goal. And of that group, 86% of those students passed STAR, reading STAR, at approaches or higher. Collectively, 42% of students who did not meet the RIT score or passed their STAR last year successfully passed the reading STAR this year. So again, 42% of students who did not meet their goal, their RIT goal, or pass STAR last year were able to master the STAR reading test this year. So this year's data shows that we are definitely making measurable gains toward meeting that 5-year goal. Questions?
I have a comment. I just want to thank Dr. Gorey and team with working on helping our students to achieve great reading improvement and comprehension. And we know, especially in the younger grades, that if we get a hold of them and they're getting the help that they need, you're going to see incremental jumps on the improvements there. The higher grades, it's more of a challenge, and that's why the tutoring program that we want to bring forward is so crucial, that we work together as a community to help these students that are struggling. But the younger students, you can see them make light years in improvement jumping in what they started with and where they ended. So I want to thank also the Texas legislature for passing the science of reading, but ultimately the teachers, the paras, the staff, the curriculum writers, everybody in the curriculum department, that the work that they put the hard work in this year to get our numbers up and to see the improvements. The numbers are amazing. So I just want to say thank you very much to you and to all of our schools, our campuses, our teachers for doing the hard work that they are doing. It's making a difference, and we're seeing improvements across the board. So I'm very proud of the work that's been done and want to say thank you very much.
Any other colleagues? Lucas?
And just a comment, echoing a bit what Trustee Kalmbach said. This is the work of the district. This is the stuff that we get excited about, and it is high accountability, high transparency to measure in this manner, and our team is doing, to your point, they're making significant progress, and that is outstanding. So congratulations to you and to all the teachers that are in the rooms day in, day out. This is the good work of the district, and we will continue to support and enable.
Anyone else? I have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you. I appreciate you presenting those little spider webs at the end, really showing the numbers of breaking it down. Exciting at the 42%. these are so, I think this has been reported different ways, not here, but outside, but that means, so these are all the students who did not make it the prior year, and 42% of them were able to get through an actual reading level plus the STAR, which measures their knowledge and skills from the TEKS, both at grade level. So that is, that's an incredible feat for teachers, campus leaders, district leadership, and especially in a year when we had to make some cuts really in instructional support. And so I just really want to commend everyone for that effort. You can't say enough at a dais to say congratulations on that. And then I still have the question, and especially as we're about to set the budget. So in 5th grade, when I did the math, these are students who are about to leave elementary school and go to middle school. And I think when I did the math, it was about 999 of them who didn't reach 5th grade level reading. And so I wonder about the support we'll have for them as they go to middle school, if we've already made plans around that in our budget, plans around that in our, campus improvement planning and district improvement planning, so that we can offer them that support.
So the great thing about tracking students in this manner is that we know exactly who these students are, and wherever they land next year, whatever campus they land at in Cypress-Fairbanks ISD, we will share that data with those campuses so that we can continue the work that we're doing with those students. And that's from the kindergarten through 5th grade, who will be 6th graders next year.
That's great, because I do know, for example, it might need to be differentiated staffing. If we look at the 999, and if they're heading, into a school, if they're heading in a cluster, let's say a school's getting a couple hundred of them versus another school that may be getting 20 of them, I just wonder about the staffing units we've assigned. And I know that Title I budgets were stretched. Maybe some of the decisions we'll make around transportation and other areas will help campuses, but just wondering if we've addressed the totality of funding that it will take, knowing that, let's say 20, like how many people could see kids in a day, and do we have enough staffing for it? And then the second thing being, I think we've used Read 180 at middle schools. Is that still what we're using? Have we seen that it works? And what are we really doing to make sure that we've got the correct interventions for them as they go to 6th grade?
So the campuses do have additional staff. Title I campuses have additional funding, and they utilize that to get additional staff as needed. And at the district level, we still provide extensive support for those campuses. We have coaches that will go out and support in the classroom, modeling lessons for teachers, working alongside teachers, pulling groups of kids, whatever is necessary to make that happen. So even though we had budget cuts and we lost some of our staff, we still remain capable of providing those services to campuses. And yes, there are intervention classes for kids when they get to middle school when they don't pass STAR. But if some of these kids pass STAR who were reading below level, so we're going to identify those kids. We're going to share that information with the campus so they can identify them and very strategically make sure that they're providing those supports.
That's awesome. And I did see, all the campus visits, incredible amount of coach support and team, that your team coming around where campuses requested that support so that they could make sure they met the mark. And when we hear the next report, I think we'll have some really exciting growth to share. On back, but just sticking with reading for a minute, I do wonder, like, the students who are now in 2nd grade would be ones where we would really see the results of science of teaching reading versus 3rd grade, correct? Like, which kids would we say came through? Are 3rd graders yet ones who have been under the system of science of teaching reading or not?
Is it 2nd grade, I think?
That's what I think too. I think if I remember
grade.
from campus visits. So it should be interesting to see, even as we have that measurement versus, she's answering over there. Fresh off Franklin Elementary accountability, doing an amazing job out there.
So campuses experience the science of teaching reading in a rolled out model. So some campuses started that 2 years ago, some took it last year. So it would depend what grade those students are in and when their campus went through the cohort of science of teaching reading, if that makes sense.
So at maximum, a 2nd grade would be.
So
If they took it 2 years ago,
so maximum would be 3rd grade if they were in the very first group.
I'd love to see some data on those that were the first group, and just to see them versus the other campuses that had it, the 2nd or 3rd phase of rollout, just to see if we're noticing any trend. And that was actually my last question, was around That's awesome. So if a student's showing that they don't necessarily have reading at level, but yet they're able to pass the STAR test, which is measuring their TEKS, right? Do we see any trends, or is there any analysis we could see of which things really pulled a kid through or didn't? Maybe a little early to have done that level of analysis, but I'd love to hear any insights you have. Thank you, by the way, Melissa.
It is early, but we will dig through this data, disaggregate in every way possible to make sure that we have the best idea and the best supports for our students. So yes, we are interested in looking at how Science of Teaching Reading has supported our students in accomplishing this goal. So we will, when we find that information out, I'll definitely share it at our committee meeting or here at the board meeting.
And we can probably visit this in ASVP committee again, but I'd like us to track, I loved your idea of those, for example, of those 999 fifth graders, some of them who did pass STAR, so maybe they have enough intervention in their classroom, but really tracking those kids out I don't know what an interim measure would be if they're not doing a MIRA anymore, but how would we know that they're continuing to track and not wait till the end of the year and then, oh, they didn't make progress on STAR, you know what I'm saying? So really a system for looking at those sixth graders and deciding the ones who did pass, is it still enough support since their literacy is just not quite on level? And then also just the data, I know you'll do, because your team is amazing at doing this and really we'll see those results with STAR, but if the growth measure in a mirror that we're using, right? If that one, where it's over or under predicting, just so as a tool for us to be able to, I think literacy is always the goal anyway, so, but it's intriguing with those ones, like the 31 who passed. Do we feel like Amira is giving us some information that's a little stricter, or what was there an area in phonics, or is there an area in comprehension, or what might, vocabulary, or what it might be that is, you know, like, so we know how to really interpret the data as we go through the years, as our crunch gets crunchier to get to that 2029 year goal. Yeah,
Got it. Will do.
that's a yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you. A really incredible work on the part of the whole team, really creating an incredible system, and our superintendent and administration be willing to set those, I think Lucas said that, we set the aggressive goals around the most important work. And as Trustee Kalmbach mentioned, we are looking for volunteers because we still can see the number of kids who aren't reading on level, and anyone who can help out as a volunteer to make sure that our students have extra help in reading so we can continue to accelerate. It's much harder to move them, as you said, when they're older. Ms. Honeyman?
Thank you. Yes, just a clarification, Dr. Goree, just to make sure that that we're using the correct terminology when we're sharing this publicly. When we talk about the number of fifth graders who were at 5.0 to 5.7, is the terminology that was just used, literacy not on level, the best terminology, or is there a different terminology that we should be using?
The way Amira describes this is that the students are below the expected learning rate. So they're still learning, but it's a norm reference. So they're below the expected learning rate of their peers. So their peers are learning at a rate that is equivalent to being a fifth grader in the 8th month, and they're learning at a rate that's equivalent to a fifth grader at maybe a 3rd month of school or 4th month of school.
Okay, thank you. That's an important distinction. They're still learning. They are reading. They are just below the expected learning rate of their peers.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
I'd like to clarify also, so all those fifth graders at 5, that's basically 6.0, meaning they would be on level for 6th grade, or 5.9 or 5.10 at the end of 5th grade. Are there still 999 children who are not an on-level end of 5th grade student?
There are still your students that are not at 5.8, 5.9, or 6.0 are still at a learning rate that is below their peers.
To be an on-level reader would be the 5.9 or the 6.0, which one?
They don't call it a on-level reader. They just consider it at the learning rate. So their learning rate, because it's norm reference, so the learning rate would be at 5th grader at 8 months. And so if you're not a 5th grader at the 8th month, then your learning rate is below your peers. That's how Amira describes it.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Excellent. Okay, you continue with your report around the STAR data? Is that going to be reported today as well?
Our star data is in August when we get our actual final.
Final.
What you received is the preliminary data.
Yes, okay, and it's too bad because there's a lot to celebrate in the data, so I'm eager for us to be able to share that with the public, but just want to say thank you to the entire team. It takes the entire team to make sure that our students continue to grow, and we have seen some good growth in some areas this year, and so thank you for your report, appreciate that. I know. Okay, we will now proceed with item 6A, the public hearing portion of the agenda. 6A, the board will hold a public hearing on the adoption of the 2025-2026 budget at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. Karen Smith is our presenter, but we will have 4 registered speakers who will come forward. Our first registered speaker is May Gates. And our secretary, if you will keep time. May, will you please approach the podium? May Gates? Okay, we don't see May present, so Jeremy Eugene, please approach the podium, and you will have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Eugene. I teach English, special education, and reading at Cypress Park High School. And today I'm speaking in support of a colleague who wishes to remain anonymous. This is their statement. I am a life skills paraprofessional entering my 3rd year. I want to respectfully express that while the proposed pay increase may seem like progress on paper, it does not match the weight of the work we carry every single day, physically, mentally, and emotionally. As a life skills para, I am with our students from the moment they arrive until the moment they leave. I change them, clean them, calm them, and at times carry them when they refuse to move. I G-tube feed a student every single day, a task that requires both precision and physical effort. Over time, it's taken a serious toll on my hands and back, leaving me in daily pain that I carry home with me. But the weight is not just physical. I spend time outside of work creating custom visuals and worksheets, learning strategies to better support my students, and making material tailored to their needs because I want them to succeed. In the classroom, I often sit beside students in distress, giving them my full attention so the teacher can continue instruction. I am the one a child may ask for by name when they're struggling, the one they trust to change them, help them focus, or sit with them as they cry or scream for minutes on end. We are not asking for more than what is fair. We're asking to be paid a living wage for the essential and demanding work we do every single day. Please see us, please value us, not just in words, but in action. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jared Hostetler. You'll have 2 minutes.
I want to begin by saying how deeply thankful am I that despite 18 children being struck by cars this year in CFISD, there have been no fatalities. My heart goes out to those children and their families, and sincerely hope that all are able to make a full physical and emotional recoveries, though I know these experiences will stay with them for their life. Eliminating a critical safety measure like bus service in the name of budget cuts should never have happened. No cost savings are worth the risks to our children's lives. Forcing parents to choose between their livelihood or their child's safety is not the path to excellence. It's a failure of leadership and planning. This decision has taken a real toll on families in our community. Personally, it has placed significant strain on mine. I commute from West Chase District to Cypress in the afternoon to pick up my 11-year-old daughter because I refuse to let her cross Fire Road alone. That's not a risk I'm willing to take. Having to leave at 2 p.m. has impacted my performance and opportunities at work. But her safety comes first, and I would like you to share the same sense of commitment. When children do not feel safe, physical and emotionally, their ability to learn is compromised. We cannot expect academic excellence along the path to amazing while neglecting the basic need to secure transportation to and from school. I strongly urge the board to make student safety the top priority budget item and restore full bus service for all students next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Cheryl Liao. You'll have 2 minutes.
Good evening. We have all seen the consequences of the 79 bus routes that were removed around this time last year due to budget cuts. Since then, at least 18 children have been hit. That is 18 too many. No child should have to worry about whether they'll make it to and from school safely. No family should have to wonder if their child can cross a 45-mile-per-hour road without them. It was once said, if even one child is hurt, it's not worth saving $7, $8, or $10 million. Now is the time to turn those words into action. School buses are not optional. They are a budget priority. They are a lifeline for our children's safety. We're calling on you to reinstate all bus routes. Failing to do is dismissive of the harm already done to 18 children this year. This is not just a numbers issue. It's a matter of responsibility and of doing what's right. Please, act now. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will now review the following consent agenda items. During review of the following act. Sorry, Karen. Did I skip you? Oh.
Yeah.
Hearing, through 6A, the board will hold a public hearing on the adoption of the 25-26 budget. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, thank you,
Kind of
Dr.
important, just a little bit.
That's okay. Thank you, Dr. Blasingame. Tonight, I will be presenting the 2025-2026 proposed general operating budget based on the way we currently understand House Bill 2, which provided additional state funding to school districts and made many changes to the state funding formula, as well as utilization of how this funding will be spent. Districts are required to annually adopt a budget for the general fund, the debt service fund, and the food service fund. The district's budget must be approved before June 30th every year. Before I continue on with the presentation, I'd like to thank Amanda Bowles, Melissa McInerney, and Patrice Lang in the Budget Department for all their hard work, as well as the Human Resources Department. And I also want to take a moment to thank Dr. Killian and Teresa Hull and the Finance and Operations Committee for all their support, as well as the other trustees. This has truly been a team effort. Most of this information has already been shared with the board about the items that have either helped reduce the current deficit or have added to the deficit. However, it's a good starting point to discuss where we are for the 25-26 budget. The main changes since last time this was discussed was an increase in the reduction of the SHARS revenue and updated estimates for state funding, property taxes, and net budget adjustments. The estimated deficit at June 30, 2025 is approximately $24.3 million. Unlike the last several years, we no longer have the ESSER federal stimulus funds to offset the deficit. Some of the factors that could result in a slightly higher or lower deficit by year end are on the right. The key areas considered during the budget process are to retain and recruit quality staff, preserve quality of instruction and services, prioritize students and staff safety, and at the same time preserve the financial position of the district. The HB 2 is a state funding bill for school districts. It was passed by the 89th legislature and signed into law on June 4th, 2025. HB 2 provides $8.5 billion in funding for public education, which includes $4 billion for teacher and staff raises. Although we are very grateful for the additional funding and the amendments made to provide flexibility, districts will still have financial challenges over the next biennium due to the lack of funding since 2019 and inflation. In the next several slides, I will review what HB 2 means for CFISD. The items in green are flexible new money, and the items in red are pass-through funding that is allocated for specific expenditures by HB 2. HB 2 increased the basic allotment $55 to $6,215 from $6,160, which amounts to an additional $48 million. This was done by reallocating $800 million that would have been used under current law to increase the golden penny yield. The bill also redirects future increases in the golden penny yield under current law to the basic allotment. The 30% compensation increase requirement when the golden penny yield increases was repealed due to the other salary allotments provided for in HB 2. Increases in the basic allotment impact some of our other allotments because their funding increases when the basic allotment increases. The allotment for basic costs was added as an amendment and provides $106 per enrolled student, which we are very thankful that they looked at enrolled students versus what's typical of average daily attendance, for costs associated with fixed costs such as transportation, utilities, hiring retired teachers, health insurance, TRS, and property insurance. So the additional amount of funding is $12.6 million. In addition, you've probably already heard about the teacher retention allotment. It adds allotment for classroom teachers based on years of experience and the size of the district. Districts with enrollment of $5,000 receive $2,500 for teachers with 3 to 4 years of experience and $5,000 for teachers with 5+ years of experience. The total of this is estimated at $29.7 million. But once again, that flows back out, that's why it's in red. Then the support staff allotment, this is another one where their amendment was done, and it provides $45 per regular program allotment for non-administrative staff, and that's an additional $4.3 million. HB 2 implements many of the recommendations of the Texas Commission on Special Education Funding, such as transitioning to intensity of service-based model that will spend $250 million over current law, but it is not effective until 26-27 due to the complexity of transitioning to an intensity of services model. The bill directs the commissioner to establish 8 tiers of intensity services and at least 4 service groups. HB 2 also added $1,000 per initial full and individual evaluation. The estimated increase in funding for the evaluations is $3.4 million, and the remaining $1.1 million is due to the increases in the basic allotment. HB 2 also expands the number of students that generate the dyslexia allotment, and that amounts to $30.3 thousand. It also added a weight with bilingual for districts offering alternative language education methods, but it's capped at $10 million. So the only additional amount that's included right now is 119.7 of an increase in the basic allotment because this additional area was not modeled by the different models that we received. In addition, it establishes that the JROTC courses are eligible for CTE funding or career and technology funding, which would add about $1.2 million. And then the school safety allotment was increased from $10 to $20 per ADA, and it increases the per campus allotment from $15,000 to $33,540, which is an additional $2.8 million. Excuse me. Then the early education allotment, this is one that's once again in red because of the fact that it has to flow back out. And so what will happen is the TEA will actually pull back the money that we currently are receiving, then recalculate based on our number of our kindergarten, pre-K kids compared to the state, so our percentage, and then allocate it back out. So some school districts will receive more money, and some school districts may receive less money. What we've looked at so far based on the models is we'll get about the same amount of money. It also increases the allotment to 62.15 per K through 3 student. It expands the allowable uses to include literacy and math academies and pre-K programs, and it requires a stipend to be paid to teachers required to complete academies off contract time. So total amount of this was $3.8 million. And then they made changes to the teacher incentive allotment, but that is not effective till 26-27. It added an acknowledged designation, which is going to be paid at the same amount as the National Board Certified of $3,000 to $9,000. It increased recognized designation from 5,000 to 15,000. It also increased the exemplary designation as well as the master's designation. And then it increased the high needs and rural factor multipliers for all designation levels, ranging from $1,500 to $6,000. Also, a new allotment is the early literacy and intervention allotment. However, this one will not be effective to 2026-27 either. It creates a new $250 per student allotment for required reading interventions for students who fail 2 consecutive assessments in grades K through 3. However, it is limited to 10% of the students enrolled in kindergarten through 3rd grade, and it excludes students receiving dyslexia services. It also establishes a $400 per student account to purchase private tutoring if a student fails 2 or more literacy assessments after beginning 1st grade. Also, the CCMR bonus doubles for the special education CCMR outcomes from $2,000 to $4,000, and that's providing additional $46,000. The transportation allotment was increased for special education transportation reimbursement rate. It went from $1.08 to $1.13 per mile, which provides an additional $107.8 thousand. Also, the new instructional facilities allotment was changed to, it has a cap, and it increased the cap on the new instructional facility awards from $100 million to $150 million. This will not impact us unless we open new campuses, and it's good for 2 years. Also, certification exam reimbursement, it increased the reimbursement to 2 exams per student. Currently, it's only 1 exam, and it expands the reimbursement to include costs for fingerprinting and criminal background checks, but it caps that statewide reimbursement to $20 million. So it's an additional $131,000. Also, a wonderful benefit for our teachers is they adds classroom teachers to the list of eligible students for state-funded pre-K. So what we will receive on this is we will basically, they draw a half-day ADA like our other eligible pre-K students. And finally, preparing and retaining education through partnerships program was established. It will be effective in 2026-27, and it established a program to facilitate partnerships between school districts and educator prep programs. And the allotment ranges from $3,000 to $24,000, and it increases based on high needs and a rural factor from $1,000 to $3,000. But it is capped at 40 to 80 participants per district. And then the teacher certification incentive establishes a $1,000 per classroom teacher certification incentive. However, it expires September 1st, 2028. Based on the models we have received for state aid based on House Bill 2, CFISD's estimated gain is $62.6 million or $584 per ADA for 25-26. However, as I mentioned previously, some of the funding is flow-through, such as the teacher retention allotment that must go directly to classroom teachers, and other funding that was not flexible, additional funding, such as the early education allotment. In addition, the teacher retention allotment cannot be used for the additional TRS and benefits that come with the teacher retention allotment. The allotment for basic costs was provided to help offset this as well as other costs, but it does not completely offset such cost. So the true flexible funding to address the deficit in 25-26 is approximately $23.5 million or $219 per ADA. The teacher retention allotment amount shown here is based on teachers currently employed in the district. As I mentioned earlier, the allotment amount previously shared, but basically what it'll be done is based on fall PEIMS data. And so the estimate that we shared with you of about $29 million that they were showing in additional funding, that was based on 24-25 PEIMS data. They will then go update it in 25-26, and we're hoping that that amount will match close to what we're estimating it will cost us for the teacher retention allotment. Since the teacher retention allotment as well as free pre-K is specifically for classroom teachers, I will go over how HB 2 defines a classroom teacher. The classroom teacher definition is based on Texas Education Code Section 5.001, which is an educator who is employed by a school district and who, not less than an average of 4 hours each day, teaches in an academic instructional setting or a career and technology instructional setting. So notice those two key points, at least 4 hours per day and teaching in an academic instructional setting. Also, it will be, what TA has told us it will be is there's a staff is reported by, in PEIMS code 087. HB2 also includes uncertified and contract teachers. TA will calculate years of experience based on the number of verifiable years of credible experience specified in Texas Education Code 19. It'll be reported in the years of professional experience PEIM code E0130. This slide reflects the salary increases that the board has approved over the last 10 years. And with the recommended raises in 25-26, it will be 14 straight years that the board has approved raises for staff. Dr. Killian shared this comparison of the 24-25 teacher salaries with our competing school districts. CFISD ranks 4th in teacher starting salaries. Administration is proposing increasing the starting teacher salary to $65,000 to remain competitive. On the next several slides are the increases and decreases compared to 24-25 that I discussed in April and May that are included in next year's budget, as well as priorities identified by the superintendent and the board at the May 22nd budget workshop. The priorities included in the budget are the priorities that the superintendent and the board indicated that they all supported at the May 22nd workshop. The budget is based on our current understanding of House Bill 2. We are also including revenue from property value audits of $19 million. Note that some of this could be one-time money, such as the freeze audit, because as I shared with you before, this is one that was specially done because of some of the changes in law that, because they knew there were variances, they allowed us to just do a freeze audit alone and not a full property value audit. So there may be adjustments needed in the future. The budget also includes a decline in enrollment of 1%, which amounts to $7.3 million in funding, as well as the continued 2% in decline in average daily attendance, which is around 93%, as well as continued reduction in SHARS funding. The budget also shows the $5,000 per year with 5+ years of experience. This will be paid by the teacher retention allotment. It also includes $2,500 per teacher with 3 to 4 years of experience. And then it also includes an increase in the teacher's starting salary to $65,000, which will cost $776,000. And it includes increases in salaries for teachers with 1 to 2 years of experience. These teachers were not included in the teacher retention allotment, so this is the amount that we would be providing for that, which includes $2,500 for year 1 and $2,500 in year 2, which amounts to $2 million. The significant funding that was put into the teacher retention allotment by the legislature was in response to the teacher vacancy task force recommendation and to entice the most experienced teachers to stay in the classroom. With this budget, we have worked hard to fill the gaps left the best we can for non-teachers. As a result, Dr. Killian is recommending a salary increase on the greater of midpoint or base of 4% for all other employees, which cost $14 million. The budget also includes $1.8 million to increase the hourly and professional starting pay to $15 an hour. We will be reinstating transportation, which costs $4.1 million. As you recall, we increased transportation salaries in order to be competitive with the industry in December of 2024. There is $1.2 million in the budget for a full year of this increase. In addition, TRS cost increased by $4.8 million due to salary increases. We also decreased payroll by budgeting at a 98% fill rate versus the current 98% fill rate that was budgeted in 24-25. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I said that wrong. Yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we're changing it from 98% to 96%. Apologize. Thank you. Once we saw that vacancies remained unchanged after some of the central office positions transitioned back to the campuses, we were able to reduce the expenditures by $18 million. Let's see if it didn't go. Just a second. Then we also, sorry about that. There we go. And then recognizing the difficulty of recruiting and keeping certain special education positions, the budget includes $1.6 million to modify stipends for resource and in-class support to 2,000, adaptive behavior, life skills, and early childhood special education to 3,000, and then Carlton Center and the Carpenter Center, they would be changed to, increased to 3,500. Also, the budget includes $3 million to implement recommended market adjustments from the 2025 salary study. For example, this would include increasing starting police officer pay to $63,000. Also included is $1.6 million to increase the minimum CFISD contribution for employee health insurance to $250 per month, which would cost $1.6 million. Also included is a decrease in the teacher allocations due to a decline in enrollment. So there's a reduction of expenditures of $6.8 million. It also includes an increase of $2.3 million for the teacher residency program, as well as increases for software. Some of this software is instructional software, as well as software that had to be moved, that was moved from the instructional materials allotment to the general fund, and then just regular renewals and inflation. Some of this will be offset by E-rate funding, but the cost is $4.2 million. And then increases in expenditures for the data dashboard platform of $1.3 million. Also included is increases in expenditures for overtime temporary workers, which is partly offset by revenue that we receive for the use of our facilities of $456,000, as well as police in-car video systems and radio repair for $172,000. Board election costs, this will be a board election year, so the cost for that would be $792,000. Campus point of sale devices and replacement of AEDs will cost $112,000. And then lastly, various technology maintenance and repair costs, social workers, JAPC, utilities, et cetera, that will be $552,000. The proposed budget with the items just discussed are included as a result in a deficit of approximately $45.5 million. This is less than the $50.1 million that was shared with the board on the May 22nd meeting, which didn't include any raises. The general fund revenues consist of local revenues of $519.9 million, which is mostly property taxes, state revenues of $653 million, which is comprised of state funding, TRS on behalf, and the property value study. Also, or property value study audits. Federal revenues of $7.5 million, which is comprised of school health and related services, what little's left of that, ROTC, and reimbursements for indirect costs on grants, as well as other sources of $500,000, which represents revenues from auctions. Operating expenditures are estimated to be approximately $1.2 billion, and I will provide more detail on those on the next several slides. This slide reflects the general fund expenditures by major categories, such as payroll, contracted services, which includes utilities, supplies, which includes instructional materials, fuel, et cetera, and then also other operating, which includes our property insurance, and then capital outlay, which includes costs for equipment replacements. Payroll costs remain 89% of the district's budget. This is in line with other districts across the nation where payroll is 85 to 90% of the general fund budget. So you can see why raises have a significant impact on the budget. The budget must be adopted by fund and function. Instruction costs are 66% of general fund expenditures. The remaining functional expenditures on this slide provide support to the campuses and the classroom. Maintenance and operations is the next largest functional expenditure after instruction at $94.7 million. And you'll note that general administration is only 1.67% of the budget. Other intergovernmental charges are our payments to Harris Central Appraisal District for their services. Texas Education Code 29.081 requires districts to indicate the portion of their budget that is for accelerated instruction. $12.8 million of total expenditures are for accelerated instruction. This pie chart consolidates the previous 3 slides by functional area. 96% of our expenditures go directly to the classroom or towards instructional support and district operations to support the classroom. In addition to the general fund, the district must also adopt a budget for the debt service fund and the food service fund. The interest in sinking tax rate generates funds required to service the district's debt that was approved by the voters in a bond referendum. The funds can only be used for principal and interest payments on bonds and cannot be used for the general operations of the school district or to offset the deficit. The debt service revenues consist of local revenues, which are tax collections to make the district's bond payments for the current year. State revenues consist of the hold harmless the state provided when voters approve increasing the state homestead exemption. And voters will have an opportunity this November. One of the bills was to go from $100,000 to $140,000 for the state provided homestead exemption, as well as there's additional relief for those that are 65 older and then businesses. So that'll be in November. And the expenditures for the current year bond payments, we only have them in there for the current year, so you only budget for the current year bond payments. The food service fund is subsidized with federal reimbursements, and funds can only be used towards a child nutrition program and not for the general operations of the district. It's important to know that the child nutrition program makes a profit and does not require use of the general fund money. Although this year reflects a deficit of $3.3 million, it is a planned deficit because Texas Department of Agriculture limits the number of months in fund balance to 6 months, so they have to spend to get it down. Food service local revenues consist of a la carte sales. State revenues reflects a small state meal matching amount for reimbursable meals from the prior school year. And federal revenues consist of federal reimbursement for free and reduced meals and commodities. Expenditures reflect the cost to run the food service program and utilities for our kitchens. Last month, I shared the importance of an adequate fund balance, which is at least 4 months in expenditures for school districts with a June 30 year end, to be able to manage cash flow low points, unanticipated revenue shortfalls, and unanticipated expenditures. The only way to replenish fund balance is not to have a deficit and have an operating surplus. The estimated months in fund balance with the items that were previously discussed that are included in the budget is expected to be 4.82 months in expenditures at year end, as of June 30th, 2026. This leaves room for additional priorities to be addressed in 26-27, and the next slide will show this calculation. At this point, we estimate a deficit of $24.3 million at June 30th, 2025, resulting in 5.8 months in fund balance. This could increase or decrease depending on what happens between now and June 30th. Based on the estimated deficit for 24-25, we looked at the maximum deficit while maintaining 4 months in fund balance at June 30th, 2027. Because you've got to look at it as a biennium, because we're not going to be getting any, additional funding other than what was in HB2. Dr. Killian, do you have anything that you would like to add before I respond to any questions the board may have?
Yeah, if you could go back to the slide with the new things that were in the budget.
Is this where you want me to be?
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So I just wanted to point out that what we did in building this presentation for you was based on the agreements that everybody had when we did the budget workshop. And so those are already baked into this budget. So what you see here is the 65K start, how much that costs. Also dealing with the 0, 1, and 2-year experience teachers that come into the district, that are in the district, and also the 4%. I really want to push hard on the 4% piece. I know we talked about 3% and then we went to 4. The reason why I push so hard for that is because of the 087 numbers for teachers. So I'll go back to one of the things that she shared in the budget. So the allotment that the state is giving us is only for classroom teachers, and the way they define classroom teachers is a lot tighter than they've ever done that before. Before, we used to get money for pay increases where they said it was teacher pay increase. It included nurses, counselors, librarians. It included instructional specialists that were teachers, behavior intervention teachers, those type of folks that also provide support. Well, that's no longer the case in the way they flowed the money this year. So the reason why it's so important to have that 4% pay increase is because we're going to have to deal with all the rest of the employees that used to be flowed with a staff or a teacher pay increase that was provided from the state. So in the past, that's kind of how they did it. So that's one reason why that's in there. Also, the 4% covers some of the other staff members in the district, like our paraprofessional staff members, like all of our operational support staff. And if you'll go to the next slide, this is the one that we also included, the $15 an hour. Remember, that was really important to, it seemed like, to the board as well, to make sure that we upped our game with the hourly rate to try to get more close to a livable wage, at least in some form or fashion, working on that. And then, of course, it was really important to reinstate transportation. I just want to tell everyone, though, there is no additional revenue coming in the second year of the biennium other than the special ed money. That's it. So the only way to generate new money going forward, basically it's going to be something like a VATRE. We're going to really have to consider that if you're going to maintain transportation at a competitive rate to keep filling our driver vacancies. But then also just look at our staff members as well. They're going to need pay increases in the future too, and that's not baked into anything. And I'm really concerned, and actually Teresa and I were talking about this today, was that I'm really concerned with what's going to happen in the next legislative session. So I don't think it's going to be really popular to go down to the legislature after they provided $8.5 billion and say, we also need more money, which we do. I mean, we absolutely do, because look at the money we've got right now. It's half of it's already spent because it was required to be spent certain ways. So, and we're already still in a deficit going into next year. So there's those kinds of things have to be in there. And then, if you'll go back to the chart real quick, I'm sorry. And you see the 65K start. You also see go to the next slide. Yeah. No, I think you were. One more back. You went 2 back. There you go. That's where I was talking about. Yeah. So you've got the transportation piece in there. The other big thing is whenever there's an increase in salaries, there's a TRS cost, teacher retirement system cost. Here's the thing. We have to pay for the district portion of TRS benefits for our staff. So not only does the state, or not only are we required to withhold money from people's paycheck to pay for their portion of teacher retirement system, but then we have a portion, and then the state provides a small amount of money that hasn't really moved much. So that's where that 4.8 is coming from. That's additional money that we have to provide for TRS. So it keeps that system solvent. Now, if you'll go back, I'm one more. I just wanted to Okay, and then I really wanted to hit the point about the 98 to 96. So we're tightening up our estimates even more. So if we did, by some magic, was able to completely fill all of our open positions, well, then we would be in the hole. So that's not going to happen. We haven't seen that pattern so far. So that's why we're comfortable bringing it down to a 96% fill rate with turnover and all that stuff. So, and these are the next one. The next slide is actually the differences. So we did point out that we wanted to do something with special education stipends, right, for our teaching staff. It's hard to fill area. Again, restating that even as late as March of this year, we were still 41% of our teacher vacancies were in special education. So that's why we felt it was really important for us to move our special education stipends forward. We did get an email or two about the special ed stipends and clarification. So this is where we were at. We had $1,000 for teachers that were teaching in special education, in general, where we had the higher stipend of $2,000, right? It was $2,000? Yeah, that was only in our AB classrooms. So, so what we presented to you initially at the last budget meeting was moving the 1,000 to 2,000 and then the 2,000 to 3,000. But that was only covering the AB teachers. So we looked a little bit harder at it, and we looked at what is really a high need area as defined by the study, the salary study we looked at. And that included life skills, it included AB, like it's already on there, and then our early childhood special education pieces. So we went ahead and moved all of those up as well. So that's actually more, and it's more cost than what we had originally estimated, but we feel like we can cover that inside of the budget that we're presenting, you know. And Carlton Center and Carpenter were already getting an additional amount of money because that's a higher need campus, and but they were already at the $3,000. So we felt like, okay, well, we need to move that up a little bit more also to recognize the additional work that's done there and the hard to fill area there. So that's a change from what you saw, and I'm trying to point out the changes now.
And the change was about 200,000.
Yeah, so we just felt like that was something we needed to do to honor the special education, the needs that we have in the district. And then we have one of the things that was challenged to me by the committee chair for the finance and operations was having something to address the other the market pieces, but also having something in our back pocket if something else comes up, right? So we've got $3 million for the market adjustments. We believe the market adjustments are probably going to be, the recommended ones are probably going to be a little higher than that, but we're going to parse them out to make sure we fall under the $3 million amount so that we have a little bit of flexibility going into this next school year where we may have some unintended consequences. What I'm worried about is we've got a number of districts that are doing things right now in terms of their pay increases. We're starting to hear some rumors now. And then what will happen is we'll have more that do some things in August for the September 1 start. So we'll still have a little bit of flexibility in our budget to be able to address that on the fly during the year. Because I know one of the things that Scott said was, hey, we want to make sure that we're able to actually staff the positions that we have. And so we may have to come back to you and say, hey, it's not working here, so we may have to come back and ask for some more money, kind of like what we did with the transportation department. And then I'm pushing on the issue again on the health insurance. You'll notice that it's less than even what I had put. This was not something that was mutually agreed upon by the board, so that's why I'm pointing it out, is this is the one area where we don't match contributions for everybody. We have higher contributions for folks that elect to have a family. Can you remind me of because we have 4 areas for insurance.
Yes, we have employee children, employee spouse, and employee family.
And we pay the most for which two?
It's employee family and employee spouse.
Right. And so we're behind in terms of employee only and employee children, is that right?
Yes, but the increases here are only for employee because the employed children are above
Higher.
250.
Yeah, so what, I'm trying to do that thing where I was talking about eating part of the elephant. It's gonna take us a while to get there, and it's expensive, but, you know, we've got people that they may select only to have insurance just for them. And we've got a number of employees that we would like to have them the ability to do that without a cost, but we've got to get there, and we got to go down that journey. And some of these folks are folks that don't make a lot of money. So I'd like to at least start. Right now, we pay $225. Is that right?
Correct.
For the employee only. If we just go up $25 a month, that's $1.6 million. That's how big the problem is to eat part of that elephant going forward. But just start marching down there to try to get off that lowest amount. And 225 is the minimum that the state requires us to provide for TRS active care or for insurance. So at least get us above that on another category. So right now, 3 of the categories above that, 2 of them are way above that. One of them is just slightly above that, and then this one would get it to just another category that's above that. It's $1.6 million. So, and then you see some of the other things. The teacher residency program costs, the reason why that's up there is it's just a cost now. We can't even get in to see, Deborah's group has been doing a great job of trying to get in front of college graduates to try to hire certified teachers, but you can't even get in front of them unless you offer the residency program, which costs about $25,000 for each one. We've had some really great remarks from people that were involved, both the mentor teacher and also the teacher candidate that's gone through that process. So we're trying to up our game there, and we want to get in before anyone else gets new graduates and keep moving forward with getting certified staff members. And then you can just see some of the other costs that are out there. And that's about it. Do you have that other slide? And then this one's really small. I'm sorry for how small it is. But remember we had that study that was shared the last time that was from an independent group. So I remember it. Oh, I remember it. So we got this one about 2 weeks ago, and basically on the right or the left-hand column is under old law where we ranked in terms of the districts in this area, in Houston area, what the average is for revenue per student under old law, and then with the new law change, where we rank. And you can see we ranked at the bottom under old law. We continue to rank at the bottom under new law. So while we got an increase, it didn't change our reality. We just don't generate enough revenue considering, and when you compare us to our surrounding districts. So what we've tried to do with this budget recommendation for y'all is to provide multiple things in multiple areas to try to impact as many staff as we could, and everybody has a different need. Our paraprofessionals have a different need from our police officers, as do our teachers, as do folks that are no longer even included in the teacher pay raise or pay grade anymore because they're not considered 087 by the legislature. So we're even having to look at them differently, which we never had to do before. So the reality is we're going to need some more revenue somewhere. And if we can't get it from the state, we're going to have to start considering getting it from our local taxpayers and saying, hey, can we have some of those golden pennies so that we can bring in some weighted state aid along with a few more local property tax dollars. So I just have to say that because going forward and trying to think about how are we going to fill our open positions, how are we going to remain competitive with this group without additional revenue or just relying on state increases, it's not changing our position. And we're still behind the 8 ball compared to our surrounding districts. So the only other way to change that reality is do something in terms of local revenue. So, and that's why I wanted to show that chart. And just, I want to apologize for staff members. I know we've got a lot of emails. I know the board had a lot of emails about the budget. It wasn't a windfall for us. I know 8.5 billion sounds like a huge number, but remember, we have a $1.2 billion budget ourselves. So 8.5 billion is really not that much when you're looking at an entire state of Texas. So, and pay raises were really important to making sure that everybody got one, and it was at least 4% or more. And then we also made some other adjustments and tried to help people out wherever we could. So that was kind of the thing going forward. And hearing from the finance and operations folks too in the subcommittee, we wanted to make sure that we had flexibility for that next year, and we didn't exceed the 4 months worth of operating for the following year. So that was really important to us. So we'll have some flexibility for us to be able to meet needs for next year and during the year as well. So, and then hopefully we won't have a whole bunch of other surprises like SHARs not being paid for or something like that. So, and that's really all I got, and I think we're ready to take questions.
Thank you, Dr. Killian. Thank you, Karen. I just have a couple of comments about the budget. And first and foremost, this is the results of many, many months of activity between Karen and her team, Dr. Killian, his team, all the trustees, finance and operations meeting, many, many months. And basically, we put together a budget, which I call it making the best with what we've got. We had to be very, very strategic. As Dr. Killian referenced, we had a lot of needs, and we tried to plug the holes in as many of those needs as we possibly could. But a couple of, just one or two comments and observations about this budget that I want to draw everybody's attention to. One of the most, we went into this, and 2 or 3 of the most important things that this board looked at were salary increases and transportation reinstatement. And I want to address the salary increases specifically. As Dr. Killian pointed out, and we've talked about before, when HB2 came out, there was a huge chunk of that was for classroom teachers and solely designated for classroom teachers, which didn't give us a lot of flexibility. And of course, we all agree that our classroom teachers need an increase as well. But the one thing I want everybody to pick up on is that there are many people in Cypher ISD. Everybody in Cypher ISD contributes to the education of students. And so that's why we prioritized salary increases for everyone, whether it was paraprofessionals, salaried folks, a 4% increase. Even though the state basically allocated a certain amount of money for us, we needed to bring everybody up because we needed to make sure that everybody's salary was brought up because we wanted to recognize that everybody's involved in actually educating our kids. And so that was a top priority for us as well. The other thing that was a top priority, and Karen, you got the slide up that I wanted. Thank you. In the Finance and Operations Committee, one of the things we're very, very cognizant of is the fact that our fund balance. We've gone from 5.38 months. This budget's going to put us around 4.82. Things will change here and there. Things will get. We'll see some money come in some spots. Some things will change. But 4.82, and then looking ahead at what an expected budget might look like in 26, 27. We're down to 4 months in fund balance. And so you're seeing a decrease in fund balance. So it's very important to us that, when we're looking at this budget not only affects our fund balance for this budget, but it affects what we have in the fund balance for next budget as well. So we're very, very strategic in that. And that, what that means is basically we have to be very strategic in our budgeting for the next several years. And yes, Teresa, we will be back at the legislature asking for more money again. We will be asking for more assistance because we do need it. And so we may or may not get some doors slammed in our face, but we will be back and we'll be advocating for Cy-Fair. But nonetheless, I wanted to draw everybody's attention to the fact that transportation was a top priority for us. Salaries was a top priority for us, and making sure that we have adequate fund reserves so that we can continue to have a budget and provide the services that the people of Cy-Fair have come accustomed to. But nonetheless, I want to thank everybody for their involvement. It's been a lot of work, and I appreciate this strategic budget, and I look forward to the next strategic budget, I guess. Thank you.
So I've got a couple of comments echoing my trustee When we sat down as the Finance and Operations Committee, we looked at the priorities that the board had discussed and heard throughout the year from the community. This slide is very important. One of the things that's critical is that we recognize that there's no revenue coming in the biennium. We have to plan now for the coming budget. We have to make sure that financially we're in a place where we are going to be able to operate at a high level and have our bonds treated as they are today. So our 4%, or pardon me, the 4.0 months in fund balance is a very crucial number. That's a number that we have to make sure that we're setting up the next budget cycle in order to not exceed. So as we looked at how do we prioritize all the asks in the community, we heard loud and clear that we need to get our transportation back in order, and the first priority is make sure that we have all of our teachers taken care of. We are coming right down to the wire in terms of what is available to us based on the state funding in order to meet the priorities of the community and to meet the safety of our students and preserve the quality of education in the classroom. So we're excited that we can do this much, but we know there's always more that needs to be done. So I want everybody to understand that there's been many, many, many hours done by the entire team. Thank you, Karen, and all of your staff, and Dr. Stewart for the staff of the work of your team and preparing all this. Everybody here whenever we've contacted Dr. Killian or Teresa, they're doing a new run of what does all the new information mean week in and week out. So this has been something that the team here and then behind us has been pouring hours into every single week for the last few months. So we look forward to hearing from the rest of our trustees on any other questions, but just recognize that we think we've laid out a budget that is going to be clear and get us to a position that we can meet the needs now as well as the needs that are coming in the next year. So thank you very much.
Julie, you're also on the Budget Committee. Would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you. I will share, since we're on that slide, I'll share my thoughts on this slide. I do want to express caution about the sustainability of our proposed budgets for 2025, 2026, and also for 2026, 2027. In watching other ISDs and their budget-making processes and what they're passing for this upcoming school year, and talking with other trustees from around the state, many districts are making significant cuts, and I know we did that last year, and we're not doing it this year. They're also closing schools, not offering raises for their employees, and this is in large part because they do not have large fund balances to pull from like we have. Ours will be at the minimum that it can be at the end of next year. We cannot dig a deeper hole as we've done in the past 2 years. The hole is as deep as it can get. So the options, as Dr. Killian has shared, is to increase revenue and or make major cuts in the next 1 to 2 years in order to meet the budget goals that Karen laid out on the third slide. I hadn't thought about the next legislative session, but since you brought it up, I will agree that historically the state legislature does not make a substantial investment in public education 2 sessions in a row. That's just historically. So I would not expect there would be a significant investment in public education the next school year. They may be doing some minor tweaks. I would expect the state assessment would be a area of focus, perhaps some more additional micromanaging bills to come out, but I wouldn't see a significant increase or investment. I do want to just make a comment about the very first slide, Karen, on how we're ending this school year. And you don't have to go to it, I can tell you, we're ending with an estimated deficit of $24.3 million. Again, that's part of the digging the hole. But understand that deficit would have been $62 million if we had not accessed $38 million in disaster pennies. So that's a one-time fund, access to funds that kept our deficit at $24.3 million instead of $62.3 million. I think it's something that we need to make sure we don't forget about. I think that's all my major comments. I do want to thank the administration and the board for all the work that has been put into developing this budget.
Ms. Kalmbach?
I wanted to say thank you to Karen and her team and Dr. Killian and the cabinet, the trustees, the Budget Finance Committee, all coming together and trying to help us through this process. As Trustee Ray said, we had some goals this year to try to get additional funding. The state legislature met some of that. There's still a lot to be desired. And there are restrictions on how we can allocate some of these funds. So that is going to limit the impact we're going to be able to have in other areas. And so I just had a question. Do we have any idea? I know we added some revenue producing this last year. Do we have any numbers on that, like with the VPAC and?
I don't have any numbers in front of me. I can get what we're seeing right now, but you have to keep in mind, the VPAC and the Berry Center do not generate a profit.
Right.
They generate revenue to offset some of our cost. So I can get that number, what we're projecting right now.
I know there were I just know there were a number of things that were suggested on there. I was just curious to see where we landed at the end of the year, just out of curiosity, just to help us understand how realistic is it? Is there any revenue in that we can count
We're
towards?
putting together our end of the year report, which is Guardrail 3. We're working on that now. We're scheduled to present that in August, but I can see if the numbers that we've put together so far, if I can share those with you.
Okay, great, thank you. The other comment that I have, thank you to Dr. Stewart also for her work as well with Karen. And, I just asked, how many employees do we have that are not classroom teachers? And it looks like the total, if my math is correct, is 10,925 employees. And that's a lot of employees. And we know a lot of them are struggling to make ends meet. And I hear you and I feel for you in that area. When you hear the compensation that a lot of them receive, it's like, wow, how do you make it on that? So if there is any flexibility, and I know we have to pray that there's no hurricanes this year. There's a lot of things that have to fall into place and make it work. But if there's any way to give an additional stipend to these people at the end of the year, I would love to see something like that. It's just, I really feel for the staff that we have that are struggling with the compensation. And every school district is faced with this. It's not just Cy-Fair, but we know that people are struggling with things. I see some prices are coming down, thankfully, but for what people have at the kitchen table and what they're talking about, it's really hard. So my heart goes out to them for that. That's my comments.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Killian, our Chief of Staff, Teresa Hull, again, Karen, Dr. Stewart, for all the tremendous job that you've done putting this together. I also wanted to recognize all the people that that spent many hours, many days traveling to the state capitol to advocate for our school district and for the job. Again, we gave all we had. Again, it's not near what we wanted to get. But want to also let everybody know that in our legislators, we do appreciate some help. But again, we're also going to, moving forward, there's going to be a gap. This is again, when we put this budget together, we looked at what our priorities were, and at least from my perspective, campus level employees, people that were interacting with students on a day-to-day basis, and also our safety and security aspect with transportation, and also our police department as well. Just wanted to tell everybody thank you for the job that they did, for the past few months. I know Dr. Killian, you were traveling quite a bit. Probably 15, 20 trips to Austin. Is that about right? Teresa Hull, again, keeping track with everything, legislators were working on and passing. Appreciate your efforts as well. We're putting together the best budget that we can possibly put together with the financial restraints that we're facing, that we faced last year, this year, and again, moving forward for the 2026-27 school year. We're going to have to make some adjustments there as well. But, again, priority also to bring people up that were their lowest people being compensated throughout the district. Giving, again, we throw out this term a lot, living wage, and by no means do I believe that $15 an hour is a living wage. It's the best that we can do with the financial constraints that we're dealing with right now. So just wanted to throw that out there again to try to be as fair as possible, because the needs were scattered throughout the district, and there's, again, trying to categorize what's more important than the others. I think just rewarding every position that impacted students on a day-to-day basis was kind of where we wanted to spend our dollars. So again, Dr. Killian, thank you, and thank you for the staff for the job that you guys have done over the past few months putting this together.
Thank you, Mr. LeCompte. I do have a couple of questions, Karen, on the House Bill 2 for CFISD. I also want to echo the appreciation for the time spent in Austin. Everyone gave it a valiant effort. I know I was up there at least 7 times. I know colleagues went, constituents went, and our staff was there consistently. And so I think it's a great point to say, like we're a $1.2 billion budget when the large increase was only $8.5 billion. I do want to understand, Karen, if you go back to those slides, House Bill 2, I want to understand the red figure, teacher retention allotment, because it's kind of like a displacement, right? So you're saying for $29.7 million, we looked in our own budget that we presented prior, and we looked at teacher raises just without having House Bill 2 final yet, right? And now that we have it, we know that $29.7 million that was in that budget is what is coming in for specifically teacher experience raises, right? So that number is a new number and final number.
Right. Well, that's not, the 29.7 isn't final because that's, excuse me, based on 24, 25 PEIMS. We're estimating it to be about a little over 31 million. So we're hoping when the 25, 26 PEIMS is submitted, fall PEIMS is submitted, that'll go up. But that's the, what we're estimating based on the number of teachers we have right now, what our cost will be. And that's the revenue that's going to pay for that.
Okay, so these are 25, 26. I understand we're presenting that budget, but I see into the next slide when we talk about, let's see here, the special education allotment. So this year we're realizing 4.5 million, or is that only going to be the total in 26, 27?
No, that's just for 25, 26. Correct. We will get additional funding for the transitioning to intensity of service-based model. But the commissioner will be coming up with that, and we're just not sure exactly what will happen. What we know is it's $250 million over the current funding that's in place now, but how that will all fall out, we're just not sure yet.
Total for the state, $250 million.
Correct, for the state,
dribble
not
again.
for us,
Okay.
not for us.
Yeah, because I remember that safety dollars, yeah. The safety dollars, I heard 1.3 billion, I was so excited, and it came to be very little at the district, once you get down to the district level. Okay, so really that number, we do not expect any windfall of any kind to come next school year. That's different, maybe $1 million?
If you're talking about the special ed or what?
Yeah.
The special ed, I don't know. I really can't tell you. I can tell you what it was when they were doing different models that were previously. They were looking at about 8 million, but there was more funding in that. So I don't know exactly what will come out of it because the commissioner hasn't even made the rules yet.
So looking to next year, we're not expecting that to be any kind of, maybe a couple million?
My guess, I'm just guessing, is 4 to 5 million, maybe a little more, but I don't know, like I said, until we see the numbers.
Okay, thank you. Then I also had a question similarly with the next slide down. So this teacher incentive, actually I won't discuss that. I'd just like to say that that was a huge deal that we were able to have identified our first teachers for the teacher incentive allotment. And I don't even know the numbers yet. I'd like to see that, please. But I'd like to recognize them in our August board meeting. I don't know if we fill the room or if we do it somewhere else, whatever it takes, because that is incredible, incredible accomplishment. And the state is putting so much, recognition here and so much of its money here. I would also, I know we've said that, and I know that the the committee is working on it, and we're looking at it in different committees, but as fast as we can identify how to get more teachers a pathway to teacher incentive allotment outside of those core areas. Clearly, the money's there, the state put the money there, and our teachers need that money, and so hopefully we can work quickly towards that. But I definitely want to congratulate those who did earn it, and I would love to honor them and celebrate them. Okay, so Karen, could I understand just a little bit more about this early literacy intervention allotment, and what did models tell us that we just looked at our reading data. We know we have a chunk of kids who aren't reading on grade level, and it's saying failed 2 assessments. They probably haven't identified the assessments yet if we get to use our MIRA and our data that we looked at earlier in the meeting. Do we have any runs or ideas on this? And then the second question is this tutoring, private tutoring option. How do we make sure that we provide those services and not have that money? And would it go from our fund if parents chose to get private tutoring?
Yes, they would get paid the money we get would go back to the parent to pay for the private tutoring. But no, we don't know the amounts on any of those. We haven't had any models done with that because it's all in 26, 27. And what all the people that were working on this, Tasbo and Mo Casey, is they were just trying to basically model the current year because there were so many changes. I mean, we literally did not get a letter from TEA on the teacher retention allotment till last Thursday. And so we quickly, so that's one of the reasons, for example, we couldn't have given you the PowerPoint sooner just because things are changing and the laws are being interpreted. And we will probably, I guarantee you, with House Bill 3 that happened in 2019, we were getting guidance all the way through February of that year on how some of the funding worked. They are going to be doing webinars, and it's going to be something similar that we will be dealing with throughout the year.
So I'm trying to determine, so based on the data we looked at the beginning of the year, I don't have it open because I want to leave this slide in my computer, but I think we had about 3,000 students in first grade who were not reading at, what was the term again, Julie? At a recommended growth or something.
No, no, and it has nothing to do with the reading level, so just to be clear on that, it is below expected learning rate of their peers.
As compared to a grade level equivalency. So, okay, that thing, about 3,000 in first grade. So I'm trying to do the math because I'm leading up to my discussion about fund balance and the budget for next year and the need to not raise taxes in order to do this, and what we might have to look at this year since it's a biennium. So let's say there were 3,000 students in that category times 250. We're looking at about $750,000. So we're looking at maybe not even $1 million at first grade. Let's say 750 first grade, second grade, third grade. Let's do times, does it say four grade levels? So we could be looking at about $3 million that we would have to show that we were applying to students, I'm guessing.
Well, it's limited to 10% of students enrolled in K through 3. So let me go to that slide. Right there, so it's.
So we're not talking chunks of cash there either. We're looking maybe.
No.
It's limited also in its total amount, so maybe a couple million there.
Well, think about like what you said with school safety back before, that it was over $1 billion they allocated, and we got 2.2 million. So it just shows you how quickly, when you're talking the entire state of Texas, how little you get.
Okay, so I don't think there's any others to really look at because we didn't have, I did want to understand the last one on pre-kindergarten. What could be, so we're saying their attendance, even though we know pre-K also has a lower average daily attendance rate because of they're young and they still get sick when they enter into school, but do we have any idea what this could mean for the system as far as having those be eligible?
Well, not yet, but what we're in the process of doing is I mean, obviously there's going to be some teachers that are interested now that it's free. That may have not been interested in the paid pre-K program. And so we're working on just looking right now at the paid pre-K and the ones that classifies teachers, so we can do those refunds and look at that. But we'll be opening up, it's opened back up for registration, and we will see, who all registers and where we are for that.
So the state would reimburse us? Is that what will happen?
We would get we only get half-day funding for pre-K. We don't get full-day funding. So we'd get half-day funding.
For those kids that were signed, okay. Okay, so what I think I've established here for myself is that in House Bill, did we, just for this school year based on this, is there an actual total, we've seen it in chunks, that we would say was the gain to Cypher out of the session?
Yes, we shared that. Let me get it here. It's 62 million 62.5 million, but as I said, some of it is allocated to the teacher retention allotment, as well as we're having to we have to pay the portion of the TRS benefits and everything, and then the early education allotment. So the flexible funding is about 23.5 million. And we may find it changes slightly. I don't expect more than a couple million. What we've got is models, like I said, right now. There is not a state aid template out there yet with the new HB2 model. And then also, we haven't even seen a summary of finance from TEA. So these could adjust up or down. We just don't know.
And remind me, what was the amount in our LOHE by offering the optional homestead exemption to our citizens that that is a deficit, that comes negative out of our budget?
About 65 million in the general fund.
Interesting, right?
Yep. Yep.
So basically, everyone who doesn't have a LOHE moved far ahead by about that amount, and we just sit static, basically, with some, in essence, the amount that we might have been able to try to regain from that. And that was a very telling chart, as at the bottom. Even in the new model, in the bottom of the old model and the new model didn't change. And we do have challenges. We have kids who need to increase in outcomes, and so that is very challenging. Okay, so I'm going to just, the reason I wanted to participate is that I've been asking, I think for 4 years, you finally got me there on fund balance. And to Julie's comments about that, sitting at just $1 million over the next 2 years, that's unbelievable. And so I have a couple of questions on some of our expenditures. That's gone as slim as I think we can go and feel comfortable, so there's no place to go with fund balance. So one more question on classroom teacher, because it's going to get to that 4% raise situation. So in the classroom teacher definition, that says is by a school district, not less than 4 hours per day in an academic instructional setting. Does that include like reading interventionists and those type of positions at campuses? Are they considered, because they do teach kids for 4 hours and it is an instructional setting?
They are not looking at it, like I said, definitely by title at this point. What the key is spending 4 hours each day teaching in an academic setting. So if somebody's teaching 4 hours per day in an academic setting.
Okay, so that's interesting as far as how we code an 087 or not for an interventionist. But have they been principals or have we looked at through HR, the coding system to make sure interventionists?
We're actually working very closely with HR and with our PEAM staff, and we are looking at those and trying to clean that up. I know Deborah and Sharita and I had a conversation the other day, if Deborah wants to add anything to it, about what they're looking at, and we're trying to look at the different ones that are in there and make sure it's good and clean, because one of the things that TEA said, they're using fall PEAMS data, and that gives districts time to get everything clean since since the way the definitions have changed.
I did get a question from someone who was an interventionist, and they were considering accepting a promotion in another system, and that was one of their questions. And so we would try to give every place we could, if that's true of their definition. If they teach all day small reading groups, for example, we would try to get them, make sure they were coded to 087. Yes. Right. Okay.
But if they're not teaching, once again, then would make a difference. That's clear. Okay, so now I get to the question I have about on the chart that talks about starting with this new raise for the starting salary, and then the 2,500 and the 5,000. Do we think, is there too much compression still in our salary schedule between beginning salaries and teachers with experience? Or do we see that adding that, all the different pieces we did here, do we see that our salary schedule still honors the experience of the teachers that have been around a little longer? It still honors the experience. I mean, I will say there's other stuff we would have loved to have looked at, but we just have so much money as far as that is concerned. But there is places in the schedule where it'll jump up more than others, because it's years where maybe at one point in time, we determined that we were losing people, and so we were trying to encourage them to get to, I'm going to give an example, this is not necessarily one of them, but to get to 10 years or something, so there may have been a bigger jump. So, and one of the things we do too is there are some districts that once you get past about 25 years, they don't give raises to their staff. We value our teachers over that are here over that period of time, and we give raises to all our teachers.
So if I could, by Monday, if I could see those places that are compressed or not honoring some years of experience in our salary schedule, because I'd like to propose that possibly, so this 4% raise that is saying page, if you can get there to the one that starts with 5,000 per teacher at the top, budget expenditures, 5,000 per teacher with 5+ years. There. Okay, so this 4% of greater at midpoint for all other employees and non-teachers. This is where I'm wondering if some money could maybe be looked at to see could we plug in those places in the teacher salary schedule that are not looking just as far as compression. This, I put in my original budget proposal that we would do for any administrative position, not campus-based. I think that campus-based, like principals, I've asked for some data about principal salaries, so I don't say I include them, but I would say 4% raise for salaries for administrators and central administration over a certain salary amount, maybe 100,000, 120,000. I wouldn't say a 4% raise. I had proposed a 1% raise, but I wonder if you wouldn't just give that, everyone gets a raise. And I'll explore this for paraprofessionals afterwards. If everyone just got the same as the average wage of a teacher, so the teacher average raise looks like it's between $2,500 and $5,000, what's that, about $3,700? That maybe everyone gets the same raise as a teacher rather than a percentage of a salary if it's larger than $125,000 and it's not a campus-based position. So I'd like to see if I couldn't see a model for something like that and what savings that would be. And if that savings would be enough to take those gaps in the teacher salary scale where we're not really advancing.
That would actually cost us more money because some of the raises, like the $5,000, it's just shy of 8%. So it would cost us more money.
So then we have some numbers the state thought were good, so maybe if we hit there, I would like to see, I feel like a raise, there's a lot of attention paid, and I felt like I really appreciated your comments at the last meeting, Dr. Killian, you know, unapologetic about, I do believe, and I have worked in the education field, and people work incredibly hard, and I don't know why you're the largest employer in the area and salary, you know, a question of a salary for running a large institution. However, this percentage of raise at 4% on huger numbers, I would like it to be more par with the kind of raise a teacher's getting in the system. So if teachers are getting the amount, we have these amounts here, and you're saying at some places, where, like for example, where's an example of an $8,000 raise in the salary for a teacher?
Teachers are getting, it's,
right, so that's 8% for some people.
It's $5,000,
right,
which is equivalent to about 8% on average.
Okay, well,
for
then I
those
would
teachers
propose,
receiving
But there's
it.
not any compression. You're talking about compression. I don't know where there'd be compression in the teacher's salary, because what we did was we applied the allotment on top of the teacher steps that were already there. So we maintained the teacher steps, so they actually got their step plus the $5,000 or plus the $2,500. So there wouldn't be compression between, this wouldn't create compression other than at the 25, at the 4-year to 5-year, there just would be a little bit bigger gap because the 5-year plus teacher got more money than the 4-year teacher. So, and everybody else up that chain would have got $5,000 all the way up plus their step.
Correct.
So.
oh, got plus a
So there
step, because I
wouldn't-
know we've had reports here, people talking about how we haven't necessarily honored those teachers that have grown. So we think this addresses that?
Yes,
We think that
yes,
this takes care of that?
We do. I mean, yes, we
Yeah.
definitely do.
'Cause-
Because like I said, some of them go up more, and we've got a lot of, there are districts that do not pay, like I said, give a raise to teachers that over a certain number of years of experience. They hold them at that level, and we do not do that. We give raises to all our teachers.
Yeah, the bigger issue is going to be with the reason why we wanted to do the raising the base salary plus the 1 and 2 was because that would have made a huge gap between a 2 and a 3-year teacher, right? Because we would have actually not really moved that much. So that's why we wanted to come up with the additional $2 million, so. I'm trying to think of why we would have compression in this system.
We really, well, and I guess I probably said that wrong. We don't, we just, in certain areas, if you're maybe comparing us to other school districts once in a while or something, but I think we've addressed the compression in our salary schedules. There's, and looked at that.
Yeah, so that may be it. They were saying compared to other systems, if you've been around 20 years, it wasn't looking as good. And that could be, not compression.
So it's that other salary schedule that, or the graph that we show back here, right there.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was important to have this graph in the first place, to show where we were compared to other districts. Now, our pay grades continue to go up even after see, that's just, what is that, 0, 5, 10, 15, and 20, but ours continue to elevate. And TASB doesn't survey for above 20, do they?
I think it's 25, am I remembering that correctly?
Is it 25?
Or is it 20? Do you know?
I thought it was just 20.
It may be just 20. I can't recall if it's 20 or 25. I was remembering 25, but I may be wrong.
And can you tell me in the budget, I also put a proposal in for a fund into the curriculum and instruction area that would look at being able to innovate and add some programs to be addressing those students who are not on level in their reading measures and still aren't making a lot of progress. Did we add anything in the budget for that?
No, that's what we're talking about in terms of having a little bit of flexibility in our budget to address other things. So a lot of those are operational. It's just like adding the librarians, a couple more librarians at high school level, or do what? Middle school, that's right. Or doing truant officers or that kind of stuff. We're just going to see how it all fleshes out when we get the total amount, and we may have to come back to y'all.
So can I ask, so basically, I'm still concerned about this 4% for every single employee of the system. If we look at the chart that you showed about the salary increases over the years, 4% was a rare year. And so for everyone in administration on down getting 4%, it still seems like it's a large raise at the top. But let me just ask this compared to paraprofessionals. So at this point, our paraprofessionals got to 15 an hour. A minimum. Have we done an analysis to see if, at least before we give raises to large salaries at 4%, have we gotten those people to at least the average raise of a teacher in their increase in the year? Does that make sense? So I'd like to know, how much different is the salary for paraprofessional?
Well, it's 4%. It would be 4%. But once again, the teacher, it was the 2,500 and the 5,000.
So they would get their up to 15, so it's kind of like the teacher, we gave the step raise and then we're giving 4% on top of that?
We're giving them, looked at 4%, and then if anybody is not at $15 an hour, they get raised to $15 an hour.
So our lower paid employees are not getting 4% raise, they're actually getting to 15, or, so it could be like some of them are not getting.
It's more. If they're below $15, they're calculating the 4%, and then we're raising them up to 15 if they're not at $15 an hour.
But if they were close to 15, they're just getting to 15, so it may not be a 4% raise?
They're still getting a 4% raise of the midpoint or base, whichever is higher. So if they're below the midpoint, they're going to get more than a 4% raise.
So we didn't give a full raise to administration last year, and you want to do the same thing this year? Is that what you're saying?
4% is just higher than the average we've been doing over the years, and that's why, in a year where we've just established that we've got another whole year with no changes coming from the legislature. We've addressed each item that could come in, and it's looking like dribbles. And so then I hear a VADR, which is a tax increase being recommended. And so I'm trying to figure out where in this budget we can still save enough money so that we can have it sit in fund balance and it comply to the budget, in the biennium. So I just heard, still not enough. And I still am concerned that we haven't really budgeted in for the literacy concern. And so, I guess that's what I'm saying, is could we look at that to see anything that's over, maybe it's a 3 or 2%, or maybe just this year it's not there and the next year it comes back in if we know that we've established some income from the state.
May I make a comment? I appreciate Dr. Killian pointing out that last year we did not give we only gave a 1% increase to administration. Also, when we talk about retention and recruitment of staff, that includes administrators, it includes counselors, it includes nurses, it includes librarians, which we've had several that are leaving the district to other ISDs. So I think that we need to be conscientious of retraining the incredible amount of knowledge and experience in our school district at levels that are outside of classroom teachers. Also, in the board workshop, every single board member put in the 4% increase in our priority sheet, which is why it's reflected in this recommended budget.
So let me just restate the suggestion. Maybe I'd just like to see an analysis on it and what amount it actually amounts to so we can answer that question for the public, because it keeps coming up. There's articles in the Chronicle. There's articles saying all these people making all these big salaries. There's a lot of local conversation. There's presentations to the board. And so it might be such a small amount that it's not even worth discussing because it doesn't fill in any of those holes. But I'm proposing if I could get information about salaries, I'm not talking about anything campus-based, so that's not what I said, because all those positions, including even principals who make at that higher level of, over 120,000. But if I could look at salaries in central administration at 120,000 or more at a 2% and a 3% and a 4% raise. If I could get that data, that would be helpful for me. It was not on our spreadsheet to be able to enter. I only had on this what I had submitted in and what I wanted to have considered. So I did not have a way in the format to be able to say that was to differentiate that. So I'm just asking for that information. It might be that that's not a good. And I do also, to your point, Ms. Heineman, recruiting the top talent in all seats is critical to our system. I just want to make sure that we've asked that question and analyzed that to see could it help in another area. I feel really good about what you shared about the teacher salary scale, we've made sure that there was the step and the increase. We've made sure that our paraprofessionals got their raise and to the dollar amount on top of it. So I feel like we're trying to take care of all our employees best possible. I just want to make sure that we've turned over all our
and I will say, like, I've got a schedule at 3% and a schedule at 4%. And so some of those administrative positions, for example, executive leadership, you would save, it looks like about $40,000.
Right, to me that would be, and I've been that administrator not getting a raise, I get it.
You would save about $200,000, and you're not going to be able to do a lot with that kind of money.
I'd love to see that analysis. That'd be great when you can. I appreciate that.
And thinking about the math, I'm just thinking about the quick and dirty math. 1.2 billion, 89% in salaries, 4% of it's 1.6 or 1.7% for administrative. Yeah. So you're probably talking about 700,000 maybe for the total of the salaries?
Well, the 4%, depending on which group you're looking at, is between I guess the different administration areas. Let's see, it's a little over 900,000.
Yeah, that's how I just got to it really quick by doing that math.
And it's
yeah, okay, we can do that. It's not going to be a lot of money, but yeah, we can do it. We can take a look at it.
That would be good, because then we could at least answer that concern for the public that keeps raising itself as a concern.
May I make another comment? I would suggest, rather than looking to reduce a pay increase or give our administrators or the folks that run the district here in this building a less of an increase, that we could find someplace else to cut. I'm looking at the internal data dashboard platform. That is $1.3 million. When we look at the goals of our budget and the strategic plan that we set as a board for the district, I don't know that this contributes, has a direct impact on students and employees. It seems like a nice to have. So I would rather us not reduce the proposed increases to employees, and instead, if there's an issue with the dollars, we find it someplace else. And I already gave up fighting for, I still keep asking for librarians, and that's only $376,000. So, I mean, these are priorities, right? So let's prioritize. For me, giving a significant pay increase to all of our employees is a priority.
May I add a comment to this as well, right? So this is the Wednesday before the budget meeting on Monday. We've had plenty of opportunities for us to go over this and to make these kinds of recommendations. And we have plenty of years ahead of us to look at cuts. That's definitely on the table. Right now, we don't have to look at cuts. And I'm of the opinion right now, I'm in support of the budget as presented. And I would not advocate us create animosity or hostility between any of our employees based on changing percentages, especially for the minimum dollar amount that we would be saving. The budget's a good budget. The salary raises are important. And it goes back to my comments I made earlier. Everybody in this district is educating our kids, and everybody in this district needs to be compensated for, and they need to have salary increases because of all the hard work they put into it, the late hours they put into it. To go and actually create these classes of raises and these classes of employees for the dollar amount that would be saved, I think would do more harm than good. Therefore, I'm a proponent of the budget as presented.
For the record, I received this presentation last night or yesterday, and I had not seen the 4% across the board position other places. We didn't discuss it in the last meeting, did
That
we?
was shared at the May 22nd meeting.
That we were proposing 4% across
Yes.
the board for
Yes.
even administration?
And all the
Okay, then
all the Board of Trustees voted for it. Well, yeah, I shouldn't say vote, or put it in the spreadsheet.
In the spreadsheet, there was one option, 4%, and then there was
No,
another sheet
no,
where we could put.
no. I'm
the
looking at
second
it
sheet.
right here.
And do you have the second tab?
Natalie Blassingame, yes, $14 million, 4% or greater or midpoint or base raise for all other employees.
Did you see the second tab? Do you have that?
That is the second tab. Yes, 1% was $3.5 million, 2% was $7 million, 3% was $10.5, and 4% was $14 million. And across the board, every single trustee put in $14 million, including
there's-
you.
Yeah, I'm talking about the second page where you could write in other suggestions. Do we have that?
This is that page.
Okay, I'll have to go back to it because it was on in a.
It's on a Google Doc.
On a Google Doc, exactly.
Yes,
So I'll
I
go back to
printed
see
it
that.
off the Google Doc.
And we are entitled, whether we knew it then or not, to have other recommendations, suggestions. That's why we have workshops, correct? So that we can ask those questions. And I have been the person impacted in that way, and I didn't like it any more than the people in the room when that discussion is being had. But it's also a fair discussion to have based upon public commentary and public questions and articles, et cetera. So it sounds like it's not a large amount, but I'd love to see the analysis so that we can proceed. Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I wanted to kind of touch base, Dr. Killian, I want to bring Chief Mendez up here to chat for a second. Chief Mendez?
While he's coming down, I just wanted to add a comment that I forgot to say earlier. I did want to thank Dr. Killian and everybody for reestablishing the bus routes. That's something that's been very important from a safety standpoint, as we've heard throughout the year. And I want to thank the administration for looking to reinstate those and bring it back. That's been near and dear to my heart, so I wanted to say thank you.
Chief, I just wanted to touch base with you. I know you, when we have these budget workshops and we have these conversations, I know you want to take care of your officers as much as possible, but you're, with the understanding you've been in the public education arena for quite some time, and we only have so much money to spend. Do you have any concerns that you wanted to kind of share with the board at this time?
So I've been in school-based policing for about 26, almost 27 years. I have a great understanding. I'm no Karen, but I have a great understanding of school finance and how the pot of money works. And I get it. We're a public entity. We operate off of tax dollars. There's been a lot of discussion about the officers and trying to get competitive pay. Based on what I've heard recommended, I think that we're going to find out in the next few days, weeks, and months how it's going to wash out at the end of the day. I think that the administration, I've had numerous talks. I'm sure Dr. Killian is tired of talking to me. I've had numerous talks with Dr. Killian about the compensation for officers, the state of law enforcement in Harris County and how pay has been going. And I get that we're a school district police department and that we need to find a way to be somewhat competitive. We're not a county entity and we're not a municipality where I understand growing up in municipal policing that in municipalities and in their budgets, the vast majority of budget goes to public safety. We're a school district. I understand that the vast majority of tax dollars need to go into the classrooms. We are here to educate our children. I have a student in the district. That's my son, and so I get it. But based on what I've heard, we're going to find out. I don't know how it's going to wash out. I'm on a text thread with every ISD chief in Harris County. There's about 11 of us on the text thread, and everybody is making a push to be competitive. And again, it's very, I'll just be frank, everybody's coy, right? Everybody's being coy about what they're asking for because they want to be the one that has the ability to recruit. So that's where we're at. And so based on what I've heard, I know that there's still some work that needs to be done, having discussions even as late as this afternoon, that there's still work to be done on the dollar amount that was earmarked for the market look that they're still looking at. And so there's still work that has to be done. And so I talked to Karen this afternoon, and we're still, we're not going to know tonight, and it may not be by Monday when the budget's approved, but the money that has been earmarked is set aside so that they can make things happen for the officers. I hope that answered your question.
Well, I know when we get limited on, we have a teacher shortage, we have a police officer shortage across the state of Texas. So whenever there's shortages, the compensation increases to try to attract other candidates. That's where we're at right now. That's what we're experiencing with the teachers. That's what we're experiencing with law enforcement right now.
And you'll see it. And what ends up happening right now is everybody is fishing each other's pond. Mm-hmm. And so you have county agencies that are now advertising, hey, come to us, we'll pay you what they can't. I'm not advocating that we get what the county gets. I get where we are in school finance. I just need us to be somewhat competitive because our school district has a lot to offer employees. Our department, thanks to the last bond, has a lot to offer for employees. What I'm fearful of is that we become a training ground for other agencies. Because we have the facilities we have, because we have the equipment we have, because we have the ability to train officers the way we do, we're going to lose people to other agencies because we train them so well. We will become a stepping stone for other agencies, and that's what I don't want to happen. I care about our guys. They will tell you, I think my command staff will tell you, I stress over making sure that we can find a happy ground for everybody. But I also have a deep understanding of school finance and how it works, and I don't want to ever be a burden to the school district because I understand that it's our students first.
I appreciate that, Chief, and I appreciate the staff that you guys have. Just over the last couple of years, meet with the officers individually, the jobs that you guys do, the connections that you guys make with our students and staff. I've talked to administrators, I've talked to principals, vice principal. It's like having another faculty member on campus with our kids. And for those in the audience that don't really recognize this, instead of bringing people in from a security standpoint that aren't familiar with our kids, having somebody that is assigned to each school, they recognize the kids that are coming in and day out. They recognize that there's kids that aren't supposed to be there. We've had, there's been incidences across Texas where we've had people enter facilities and schools that aren't students. You guys, the benefit that our police department adds, to our community by just recognizing the kids that are there or aren't there, because they could be up to some nefarious activities. They're not they're not where they're supposed to be, or they're not allowed into our schools. Go ahead.
There's a lot to be said about building relationships, and we strive to build relationships in our campuses. That's our priority. Is we're not a traditional police department. Our officers, if you know me, you'll hear me say it all the time. We're not your average ISD PD. We're not traditional by any sense of the word. We are very proactive. We're very multi-hat officers that we do more than just respond to a disturbance, to respond to a theft. We build relationships so that students trust us. They're willing to come to us and report information to us so that we prevent incidents from occurring. So there's a lot to be said about what the job that the officers do day in and day out.
I also wanted to add, in our discussion, I know we touched base earlier this week, but for a concern as far as with tenured officers to make sure that they're fairly compensated as well, the 5 to 10 year. Dr. Killian, did we get a chance? And I know that was a short amount of time to look at this, but do we have an opportunity to look at that at all?
Yes. Do you want me to go into detail? All right, well, I'll do that. So police officers, basic police officers will get a 13% increase. Police officers 5 years above will be 12%, 10 years, 13%, 15 years, 14%. And what I'm looking at is 8% for investigator and sergeant.
Quick work. We appreciate it. Yes.
That was thanks to HR. They've done a great job on that.
Could I get an explanation on that? Is this because of and I'd like to hear the other positions. We've looked at teacher time study and salary study in Teacher Recruitment and Retention Committee, and we've also looked at safety issues and some data in ASVP Committee. And so are you saying are those based upon the market adjustment? I think, Karen, you said police officers got to 63,000 in the market study adjustment. Is that accurate?
Yes, we were looking, well, I mean, we looked at comparisons and getting competitive with other school districts. And we got a comparison of what other starting salaries are.
Of school district police officers?
Yes.
Okay. And then we also compared that with the county, for example, or not? I know they're very different agencies, as the police officer said.
No, we can't compete with the county or the city for that matter, the city of Houston. So we just don't have the tax base to do that, so.
So these increases are looking at, are these the same systems that are in the area that we compare our academic outcomes to?
They're market adjustments.
Yeah, but I'm saying of the prices being paid for officers at the surrounding districts in our market?
Yes.
The ones that are like ones we look at our reading scores against or our math scores against?
Correct.
Okay.
And you're going to also look at, it's just like on that chart where it showed all the surrounding areas. So.
And so those are how they end up when we compare, so they.
Yeah, and that's where the other 3 million, remember, we've got 3 million sitting there for market adjustments, and so we're going to have a number of those that we're going to do as well, that we're going to take from the salary study that we did.
Can you tell me what other positions were noted in the?
Oh, gosh.
Is there a whole bunch of them?
Yes.
Okay.
We won't have enough money to address all of them.
I think we haven't been provided that data yet. I'd love to see that. I know we were going to see it in Teacher Retention Recruitment Ad Hoc Committee. So that would be really good to see. But we're going to look to see some of the most critical, and you're saying police officers have risen to the top of the list?
Yeah, it was police officers. I think, what were the other ones, Deb, that were up there in the top?
The stipends for the special ed.
Yeah.
3,000.
I'm trying to think.
2,000, 3,000, 3,500.
Was it the licensed folks too? Was that, there was some of that?
As in like physical therapy and those kind of things?
No, it'd be more along the lines of trades like plumbing and HVA and HVA. Because what you're doing is not CTE. No, I'm talking about our own staff that do those things. Yeah. Yeah, the market adjustments are for those folks because we can't get them from, it's basically like the bus drivers.
So we're looking at the places we're struggling to hire, looking at market, and as far as that money, that little million can go, we're going to try to go and help our employees. Okay, that makes sense. And I do want to say that one data point that came through, I think it was an ASVP committee, was when people cited why they left the school district in a study that was done that Teresa coordinated with a professional survey group. The change over the year for safety and security, it drastically reduced, like by 15%, people who cited the reason they were leaving our system was based upon concerns of safety and security. So I think that speaks with data of the end user, which is the families and the parents of the students, saying that they feel safe in our schools. So I would definitely support our police officer raise at those rates to get them to market, because they do a very important function for us, and it's noted by the parents and the students.
And for clarity for the community, in the very recently, in the last couple of months, the county has chosen to invest further in their security officers. So that's what has not yet been said, is that it's a significant raise that we cannot compete with. And so when you listen to the amounts that we're providing, it is to try to come close to what needs to be done in order to be even a little competitive with districts like ours in the area. No district can keep up with what the county is doing. And so we have to adjust to make sure that we're protecting our kids. It was on our first slide in our presentation today, is safety of our students.
Any further questions or comments or around budget? Okay. I was trying to rush us through this before. Let me get our script back. Okay, thank you, everyone, for your questions. We'll move on to to consent agenda. The board will now review the following consent agenda items. During review of the following action items, any board member may remove one or more of these items.
Monday presentation. Monday. You're fine.
It's not on the script. It says 6B. Give me 1 second. I'll just read it from the agenda.
Yeah, that was Monday presentation.
So I'm correct. Okay, good. Thank you. Very good. Okay. Thank you, Holly, for keeping it very straight. Okay, 6, the other item will be presented on Monday at the board meeting. So we are moving on to consent agenda items. During this section, the following action items can be removed by any board member, at which time they will be addressed and voted on individually. If any board member has a question regarding an agenda item, please ask to be recognized on these consent agenda items. 7A, the board will consider approving the minutes of the May 5, 2025 regular board meeting. 7B, the board will consider approving the budget amendments for the period of April 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2025. The board, 7C, the board will consider approving a resolution for the commitment of the district's fund balance. 7D, the board will consider a resolution approving the district's investment policy and investment strategy, the investment officers of the district, the independent sources of instruction relating to investment responsibilities for the investment officers of the district, and investment training hours. 7E, the board will consider approving a list of qualified financial institutions, broker-dealers, investment pools, and investment advisors that are authorized to engage in investment transactions with the district. 7F, the board will consider authorizing the superintendent to execute an agreement and memorandum of understanding with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, Texas A&M University. These are related to the Advise Texas College Advising Corps program. 7G, the board will consider authorizing the superintendent to execute the 2025-2026 interlocal with Harris County Resources for Children and Adults. I do have a question on this, and thank you, Ms. Cole. You did provide that earlier, but I just wanted to make sure and ask it aloud. They are the Harris County Resources for Children and Adults presents 3 different types of services. Could you share what those are and tell us which one we are authorizing this for? No, that's not for the other 2 services. I'm saying that because my phone has the item to you, but I don't want to close the screen here.
Yes, let me, so you asked specifically about, hold on one second. Let me
can
pull it
open
up
it.
here, it'll be quicker.
I'll open it.
I apologize.
Okay, I'll
No,
share them
no,
up
I
here
have it.
because you gave me the answer. So
It was
they do provide, Harris County does provide through that service, Integrated Health Services Division, and then a Community Youth Services Division and Triad. And so the Integrated Health Services Division is not what we're engaging with, nor is the Triad, but this is the one that's based on school-based crisis intervention and case coordination only. So did you want to just expand a little bit more?
This contract is for the 17 youth service specialists that we also approved last year and many, many, many years before. Actually, I think on my email I said 1990, but it's been since 1980. And then I will also just clarify that the programs that you mentioned, the Triad program and the Integrated Health Services, are programs that anybody in Harris County can look into. So they're available to us as because we live in Harris County, but they're not anything that we are contracting with. In the community youth services is kind of the umbrella program that oversees our youth service specialists along with us.
And you also shared another important piece of information. Any service that would be provided is always done with the permission of the parent, correct?
Absolutely, correct.
And I will say that Kai's workers is what we've always called them over the years, and it's been something incredible, incredible help and supports and services for students in many critical situations or struggling with attendance or any other myriad of concerns, hunger, anything like that. So, and I've got to meet many of our Kai's workers out there in campus visits, and I definitely appreciate their work, and I'm glad to be able to approve this CYS work.
Thank you for that.
7H, the board will consider authorizing the superintendent to execute the renewal of the 2025-2026 interlocal agreement with Harris County for specialized services at the Academic Behavior School West. 7I, the board will consider authorizing the superintendent to execute the renewal of the 25-26 interlocal agreement with Harris County for school-based therapy services. 7J, the board will consider authorizing the superintendent to execute a memorandum of understanding with Lamar University for speech pathology field placement. 7K, the board will consider approving the list of advanced courses for exemption purposes for the 2025-2026 school year. I would like to make a comment or ask a question here. Last year, this board considered, or it was brought forward to consider looking at which courses, like degree requirements, advanced courses, how those are calculated in GPA, coursework that would allow students maybe to explore different career course options without it being a hit to their GPA. So this came, for me, when this item came up as far as looking at which courses are considered, for exemption. I did want to place upon the agenda of our ASVP committee and any other that may be applied, or maybe even recommend a special committee to really return to that topic. We looked at 4 items at the same time, and we looked at it pretty quickly. But I think there were many items of value for our students that would be better for them as far as really being able to explore during school and reach their full potential. So I'd like us to not let that conversation die, but to really engage into a deep dive, look at what could we do to address those 4 topics that came up. We did get a lot of feedback from our community. We had a lot of concerns out of teachers looking at different courses. But I'd like us to really return to saying, what are we still on the track? Is our current system of looking at advanced courses on track for the type of workforce that we're preparing our students for? And maybe tied into that or separate, I know that Mr. Scanlon and I had a conversation with Dr. Gorey at the end of the last 2 meetings ago, but really looking at AI and the role of AI in instruction and the role of AI in preparing our students and the role of AI in the system as a whole.
Point of order. That's not what this agenda item is about.
This is about how we look at advanced courses, and so I'm proposing that we look at the whole system to see, are we still serving our students for the careers of tomorrow and for their education they need to be prepared for tomorrow? So I will put that into an agenda. I will write that to our president and see if we can put a request in to proceed with that work. Okay, 7L. The board will consider approving facilities and students for off-campus physical education, Category 1 for the 2025-26 school year. 7M, the board will consider approving a request for a Texas Education Agency waiver, waiving the requirement to provide Bible course training for teachers.
I do have a question regarding this one.
Ms. Heineman?
Thank you. Let me see if I can, well, I'll just do it from memory. Thank you, Dr. Bennett, you're ready. Since these materials are not ready for training, because the TEA has not prepared them, we are required to file a waiver with the TEA because they have not provided the training materials. Is that correct?
Yes, we are submitting a request for a waiver because we don't have the training.
Because they haven't created them.
Created it.
Since 2007. Just a statement, no, that's when the bill passed.
And they also won't create them.
Correct, because they've got a lot on their plate right now. So then my questions are, who and how will the teachers teaching this course receive training?
So the teachers will receive training in August PD, and our social studies and ELA coordinator will provide training for these teachers.
So we're developing it in-house?
Yes.
Okay. Do you, any idea at this point how many teachers will be teaching this course?
We have two courses, a total of 4 teachers.
4 teachers. Do we know how many students have registered for the course?
We have 8 students for Western Civilization and the Bible course who are, a total who have registered. 21 students have indicated it on their course requests or course selection.
Okay.
And we have 45 students who have indicated it on their course requests for literature and the Bible.
So 21 and 45, and you said 4 teachers?
Yes.
4 teachers, okay. Thank you very much for the information.
Dr. Bennett, I see here that the TEA is advising the district to request the waiver. So they're actually advising us to request the waiver.
Yes, sir.
And they're making that recommendation to all the school districts to request the waiver as well?
I imagine so. I mean, that's what they told us, though.
Yeah. I can speak to that because I did, at Dr. Bennett's request, I did reach out statewide to my general counsel group. And the only other district that had the course, they were advised the same way.
Okay.
And others said that when they'd made inquiry, they were advised the same way. My understanding is there was no appropriation made to TEA to create the training, and so until there are funds appropriated, I don't think they are planning. I think Ms. Heineman is correct. That's the information out there. They are not planning to create it unless they get funds appropriated to do so.
Very good. Answers my question. Thank you.
Other questions on 7M? Okay, let's move on 7N. The board will consider approving construction proposals and contracts paid from bond funds to the recommended contractors and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to such contracts as follows. 7N1, a 2024 support services storage building. 7O, the board will consider approving an interlocal agreement with the Texas Political Subdivisions Property Casualty Joint Self-Insurance Fund. 7P, the board will consider awarding bids and contracts and/or authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item. 7P1, art and miscellaneous school supplies. 7P2, assorted food for nutrition services 2025. 7P3, assorted non-food for nutrition services 2025. 7P4, automotive parts and labor. 7P5, beverages for nutrition services. 7P6, concessions point of sale system. 7P7, Contracted Educational Services and Professional Development Services. 7P8, District Fundraiser Services. 7P9, Event Staff Contract Labor. 7P10, Farm to School Produce for Nutrition Services. 7P11, Ice Cream for Nutrition Services. 7P12, IT Asset Management and IT Service Management. 7P13, K-12 Insight Let's Talk subscription. 7P14, MAP Growth. 7P15, Milk and Juice for Nutrition Services. 7P16, Portable Building Deck, Ramp, Walkway Installations and Related Services. 7P17, Produce for Nutrition Services. 7P18, Restaurant and Catering and Delivery Services. 7P19, Spirit Apparel and Promotional Items. And 7P20, Yogurt for Nutrition Services. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to 7Q. The board will consider approving on second reading the additions, revisions, or deletions to district policy. 7Q1, FFG Local, Student Welfare, Child Abuse and Neglect, revision. Okay, we will now proceed with the non-consent agenda items. Item 8A, the board will consider the adoption of the 2025-2026 budget, including the 2025-2026 staff compensation plan. We do have two speakers to this, and this time we'll make sure presenter Karen Smith has their opportunity to present. But if our speakers will move forward, you will have 2 minutes. Our first speaker is Rosa Solar. She's speaking on Monday, questions only? Okay. Yep. Okay, the two speakers will be signed up for Monday, Rosa and Stacy. Thank you. 8B, the board.
Just as a point of clarification, even though it's on the non-consent agenda for our Wednesday meeting, did they sign up to speak tonight, even though that it's for a Monday?
It's on the agenda, and so they can sign up to speak tonight.
Okay, was that their intention to speak tonight?
They select the date on there.
Okay, I think they're ready to speak tonight.
Okay, good. Is Rosa Solar here? Yay, come on down, Ms. Rosa Solar. You will have 2 minutes to present on the subject. Our secretary will put the timer on. If you'll push the button to show a green light down there.
Thank you, because I won't be here Monday, sorry. My name is Rosa Solar. I've been an ECSC para and in-class support para for the past 5 years. Paraprofessionals are a valued part of every school in the district, yet we are not compensated fairly because we don't have teaching degrees. Our wages don't reflect the extra work we are asked to do, and a lot of us have second jobs before and after school and on weekends. Just a few of the extra jobs we are to do is testing ESL students, being called out of our classrooms to translate at the front desk, and to make phone calls to Spanish-only speaking parents. These are just some of the jobs we are required to perform. Since budget cuts reduced the number of librarians, I decided to step in to be a library para so we could keep our library open every day. Let me tell you, it's not an easy job. I now go in earlier in the morning without overtime in order to distribute cards to each classroom before the day starts and students show up. Several of us are retiring age, but we would like to continue working. It would be nice to earn more money to make up for sore feet and muscles. I work because my husband is retired and not old enough to get Medicare, and we need medical insurance. So that means half my paycheck goes to pay for that. Imagine working day in and day out to receive half my paycheck. Now, you know my paycheck is only $21,000 a year. Yet every day I start fresh with a smile on my face because I love what I do. I love working with SPED students and enjoy all the teachers I work with. In closing, I know teachers work hard and long hours and days. I suspect
Thank you, Ms.
they
Solar.
are
Your time is up.
underpaid. One thing I do know, paras are valued very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments.
But we are not.
Ma'am, I'm so sorry, your
Paid
time limit, ma'am,
enough.
your time limit has been exceeded. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Stacy Peterson.
Hi, my name is Stacy Peterson, and I am a parent of a student, special needs program in the Vital program now. She was 19, so essentially I have 19 years experience in the world of SPED. And I have 8 years in the district as a paraprofessional in life skills. I'm a HIP, high intensity. In other words, my student has a feeding tube. I lift him to change him and modify work for him. I don't just work with him, I work with all the students. And I have been drawn to this a lot in my life. These students are amazing. I would love to invite you all to come for not just 5 minutes, for an hour in our classroom. You'll fall in love with the kids. They're amazing. And I love doing what I do. I did it to give back to what we got for the past 19 years. And that being said, I've heard you all talk this evening about the pay, and I appreciate you guys trying. I know you're trying, but we've mentioned the police salary, who we love. We love our police officer at the campus at Goodson Middle School. But I would love a chance to bend your ear and have ideas like he does, because we're not mentioning the salary, 20-something thousand. We don't go above that. We don't get to the 30,000 mark. No matter how many years we have, no matter how much experience. My nose has been broken, my foot has been broken. It doesn't matter. I'm doing my job because I love it. We're not asking for 60,000 a year. We're asking for 35,000 to buy groceries. If my husband dies, I can't keep my house on 20-something a year, $20,000. It's not just below pay. It is non-livable. I can't live on that. I will have to get government assistance, and it's not okay. We need to try harder. Thank you.
Karen, is this questions only for this item
Yes.
on Monday? Nothing more for you to present today?
That's correct, nothing else to present.
Thank you. Item 8B, the board will consider approving the designation of a reinvestment zone related to the application from NRG THW GT LLC for an agreement under Chapter 403, Subchapter T of the Texas Government Code. Questions? 8C, the board will consider approving on first reading the additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies. 8C1, CAA local, fiscal management goals and objectives, financial ethics. 8C2, CB local, state and federal revenue sources. 8C3, CDA local, other revenues, investments. 8C4, DC local, employment practices. And 8C5, DH local, employee standards of conduct. And all of these are revisions, no new policies. Questions? 8D, the board will consider approving on dual reading the additions, revisions, or deletions to district policy. 8D1, EED local, instructional arrangements, student schedules, a revision. Item 8E, the board will consider approving a delegate and alternative delegate to the 2025 TASA-TASB Delegate Assembly.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
I know we're going to put names in for this item on Monday. I would just encourage, if anyone has any questions about what this entails, you can ask me or Natalie. We've both been part of that. Todd, as our representative on the TASB board, you automatically get to attend. But we have because of that, we can still send 2 people to delegate assembly. So we could potentially have up to 3 people from CFISD participating in delegate assembly, where the strategic plan will be voted on, as well as the legislative advocacy agenda. So it's a great opportunity, and luckily this year it's in Houston, so we don't even have to travel.
Other comments or questions? Okay, we'll move on to 8F. The board will review and consider adoption of revised board operating procedures outlining the duties of a public official. This item will be discussed in closed session on Monday. 8G, the board will consider approving the corrective action plan agreement issued by the Texas Education Agency. This item may be discussed in closed session on Wednesday. Is presentation, closed session. Will we do that tonight after the session? We will move to closed session for that item. 8H, the board will consider approving a resolution to suspend portions of EHAC local for the 2025-2026 school year. This item will be discussed in closed session. 8I, the board will consider giving notice to the person named here that his term contract has not been renewed pursuant to 21.206 of the Texas Educator Code. It will be discussed in closed session. The board will consider giving notice to the person named here that her term contract has been non-renewed pursuant to 21.206 of the Texas Educator Code, to be discussed in closed session. 8K, the district will consider an appeal of a decision denying an intra-district student transfer. This will be discussed in closed session. I would like to thank everyone for being here tonight, and I would also like to thank those of you who are watching from home. May I have a motion for us to move into closed session?
So moved.
I will second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. It has been moved and seconded that we will move to closed session, and the board will not return to the dais after closed session this evening. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, we have a hearing. But that's closed session, right? Yes. Yeah, so we will return to the dais, but for closed session. Thank you, Ms. Hall. Good evening.